Chapter 1. S. Taylor is the delinquent son of a noble family with high status. He sat listlessly on his bed, mulling over the plot ruling the academy like a king. He looked at the information. In short, they struck my name from the family register, didn't they? He was expelled for the sin of uttering blasphemies in front of the esteemed Princess Phonia, the sin of illegally interfering with the entrance exam of St. Sylvania Academy, the sin of disregarding etiquette, and the sin of tarnishing the family name. Blinded by jealousy, all are sins that cannot be taken lightly. He gave a self-mocking smile, feeling as if the god of fate was mocking him. S. Taylor his life. S. Taylor was kicked out of the house with a pile of luggage. This is everything you have. Thank you for your efforts all this time. It's over. At Sylvania Academy, the students' gossip was directed at S. Taylor. Look, isn't that S. Taylor? Shh, don't look, he'll notice now. Why bother holding our tongues around him anymore? It seems his family has disowned him, so he even has to clear out his dorm room. So we won't see him next semester, right? He shouldn't have cheated on the entrance exam in the first place. That filthy noble, I knew it would come to this. Hearing the gossip, S. Taylor covered his face silently, defending himself. Honestly, it's really unfair. Because the arrogant S. Taylor you're all talking about isn't me. It turned out he had transmigrated into a game set in the Sylvania Academy of Magic, his favorite game, The Failed Swordsman of Sylvania. Usually in comics, when you transmigrate into a game, you either become the eldest son of a Chable family, the young master of a genius clan who loves to cause trouble, or an SSS rank hunter character who breaks all the rules. However, out of all possibilities, he transmigrated into a third-rate villain character who gets kicked out of the dorm right at the beginning of the game, transmigrating into the worst character at the worst time. S. Taylor stood up, looked up at the sky, and shouted, "It's so unfair. Don't tell me this is real. I've always lived a frugal and simple life. I'm not greedy at all." The students retorted, "Look at him. After doing all those things. He says it's unfair. He says he's frugal and simple. That bastard, he has no shame." Hearing those words, S. Taylor could only bow his head in silence. But his bad luck didn't stop there. When he looked at the status window, now came the reason why S. Taylor was the worst. Strength 3. Gender, male intellect. 4. Age 17, talent 7. Year 2, willpower 7, race, human luck 6, achievements none. He was surprised. Are these stats for real? Even a farmer NPC has a strength of 5? He's studying in the magic department, yet his intellect is pathetically low and his strength is too little even if he's a noble. No wonder he was just a third-rate villain who appeared in the early scenes. Even in my memory, suddenly an image appeared in S. Taylor's mind. I remember now in a corner of the end credit scene of the game he's begging. He looks like an unemployed bum. It's not surprising, a scoundrel who knows nothing about the world suddenly thrown out onto the streets. He sighed in despair. A beggar's end, huh? He's lucky to even be alive. S. Taylor thought to himself, why me? Why did I transmigrate into this body? I don't know the reason, and there's no way to find out either. But I won't let my end be like that. No matter what, I will survive. With that determination, S. Taylor picked up his luggage and started to act. Instead of a school, the academy was more like a city, with the entire Acorn Mountain range within its grounds. This place was in the northwest of the academy, a still wild forest. S. Taylor had walked for a long time, a long way. I tried to escape the prying eyes of the students, and ended up walking for half a day. That's enough time to understand my situation. When S. was just disowned by his family, that was the extreme opening of the situation. S. felt there was still some hope for this life. Luckily, even though he had been disowned by his family, he hadn't been expelled from school yet. This was very important because based on the game's setting, Sylvania Academy was a top-tier academy. As long as you graduated from there, your future would be guaranteed. And as long as the game still took place in the academy as a dedicated player who had played through it 5 times, I could make the best use of the information I had. Finally, S. concluded, so it means I just need to graduate quietly, and I can live a much more comfortable and wonderful life than the one I left behind in the old world. So, of course, my goal is to graduate. But the important thing is that the problem here is the exorbitant tuition fees. The tuition for this semester has probably already been paid, so I just need to get a scholarship for the next semester. Looking back at the stats, S became despondent again. With his stats, can I even get a scholarship? I think I'd be lucky just not to fail the exam. I can worry about tuition later, but first I have to think about the urgent problems, the things I need now to survive. In other words, food, clothing, and shelter. He was thinking about how to avoid becoming a vagrant next week. S opened his luggage. Inside were flashy clothes with no stats, a ceremonial dagger with no stats, and a decorative cup with no stats. I have enough clothes. What about food and shelter? S sat with his chin in his hand pondering, the trouble is I have nowhere to stay and no food for tonight. Based on this guy's reputation, it'll be hard to find a job. I can't go back to the dorm I was just kicked out of either. So, I guess I'm temporarily stuck in this forest? Looking at the cool stream, he thought he was glad there was at least a stream nearby. There are still 10 days until school starts. Until then, let's make myself a qualified student. S stood up full of determination. Windblade. S continuously used the spell to get wood. Luckily, he could use spells. S was exhausted, sweat dripping, but it's also quite interesting. Chopping down just 15 trees and I'm this exhausted really. Damn it, this just makes me hungrier. It's not very useful. S was dissatisfied. Before kicking me out, they should have at least fed me. Does using magic make you hungry? I'm so hungry, super hungry. Looking at the firewood, he suddenly remembered his grandfather's words. I remember him telling me this when I was little. When he was young, there was a drought, and he said he ate tree bark from behind the mountain. Thinking of this, S immediately used a spell, Ignite. As long as it's edible, it's enough for me. When it was cooked, he looked at the piece of wood. Oh, if you don't look closely, it looks like chicken breast. S immediately opened his mouth and ate it with relish. 3 days later, after bouts of vomiting, his face was gone. S complained, Grandpa, I hate you so much. And after starving for a day and vomiting profusely for 2 days, S concluded that wood should be used to build a house. He started driving stakes. First, he needed to build a frame to support the wood. He carried a lot of wood and was pinned down by it. I only have 2 hands, but there are 4 posts. This is really not simple. Then he used all his strength, drove the stakes, tied the wood, and finally completed the frame. S was tired. There's still a long way to go. S thought, anyway, I can't sleep on the bare ground. He took out his clothes and spread them on the ground to sleep on. This is a bit wasteful, but I don't have any other choice. After many days, S's tent was completed. He sat down admiring the result of his many days of hard work. It looks quite grand, doesn't it? It was so hard for me to complete it. Suddenly a notification appeared. You have completed a work. Your craftsmanship has increased. New completed work. Basic wooden tent. A tent where you can rest for a moment inside. It's still crude and shabby. If not maintained regularly, it will soon become useless. Difficulty, 0.5 stars. Life skills. Details, apprentice craftsman. Specialization, none. Dexterity, LV4. Design, LV1. Gathering, LV1. S looked up with dark circlars under his eyes, feeling comforted. The crafting system has appeared too. S lived the life of a noble, so he probably doesn't know. But looking at the information panel, oh, even so, dexterity is only 4. S realized his talent lies in his hands even more than magic. And right now, I need that dexterity. By using that dexterity, S had a new completed work, the basic spear, the ceremonial dagger attached to a sharpened tree branch. Can be used for hunting or fishing, but it lacks sharpness. Having the spear S was full of fighting spirit. Let's go find some real food. My stomach has been empty for 2 days, too much manual labor. Surely I shouldn't be able to move anymore, but perhaps recklessness has helped me to still be able to act. S seemed to forget his fatigue, rushed down to the stream to catch fish. I want to eat meat. His efforts were not in vain. He caught some fish. S was excited, quickly using the spell Ignite. Looking at the delicious hot fish, S quickly ate them with relish. There's still a week until school starts. I just have to hold out like this for now. If I can hold out until then, I'll get through school without any problems. S was about to eat the fish when suddenly a voice came, You, S. Taylor, you still haven't left this place. S had been too busy surviving that he forgot an important thing, the main characters. But among so many people, I didn't expect to run into her here. Still the same tone, demeanor, and gaze. You don't show any sign of remorse. Please get out of this academy." It was a beautiful girl with long golden hair, Princess Phonia, the one who had kicked S out of the dormitory. Chapter 2. S. Taylor is a villain character who appears right from the beginning of the game. Taking advantage of his family's status, he goes around causing trouble with the main character's childhood friends. He gets beaten up by others and ultimately receives a punitive end. Not stopping there with a heart full of hatred, a cunning face like a venomous snake, S maliciously changed the results of the main character's entrance exam to Sylvania Academy. And then he was caught red-handed. While secretly changing the results, the door suddenly opened, and S was discovered committing his fraudulent act by an unnamed girl who came for the entrance exam. Phonia Elias Clowell, the third princess of the Clowell Empire, with an indignant gaze Princess Fenya. She activated clairvoyance, discovering the target's deceit and conspiracy. As Taylor discovered in a pitiful situation, gritted his teeth in defense. On his face was a look of panic surrounded by beads of sweat dripping down due to fear, but it was all exposed before Phonia's clairvoyance. The incident was exposed, and S was thrown out with his pile of luggage and then kicked out of the dormitory. Everyone in the academy probably hated S. Taylor very much. While sitting and thinking about the bad things this body had done before, suddenly a voice filled with hatred, wearing a white dress with long hair and rosy cheeks, crossed her arms and interrogated, "What are you doing here?" But he had run into the person he should least meet. Phonia continued to interrogate, "You say the academy didn't expel you?" She crossed her arms, leaned forward, and glared at him. He flinched in fear, stepped back, and stammered, "Well, I'm still a student here. I was only kicked out of the dormitory, not expelled from school." Phonia's expression slowly darkened. "I'll just say it briefly." Then she shouted with an angry face, "Get lost! I can't stand seeing a shameless person like you around this school. I will talk to the school principal to request your expulsion from here." She continued to shout loudly, "For the crime of undignified actions towards a student of the academy, for the crime of intentionally harming a student, obstructing their future." While she was speaking, his mind was only on the fish grilling down there. "It's burned. After starving for 3 days, my precious food. But why is burnt food the problem right now?" His face was slowly showing boredom because the fish he was grilling was about to burn, but she kept rambling. "I thought you'd only say a little. No matter how I think about it, my number is up now. This person, Princess Phonia." Her indignant expression continued to scream at him with hateful words. "She really has the power to get me expelled. If so," S could no longer keep his composure. His dark face slowly approached her as he spoke. "The sun will set soon. Don't royalty always have guards around them?" He gave a mysterious smile. His eyes seemed angry, his face unable to control his emotions, as he continued to look at her and speak. "I didn't think a princess could appear alone in the forest like this." Phonia, unafraid, unleashed her power and assumed a combat stance. "If you think you can threaten me when I don't have guards with me, you're mistaken." Hearing Phonia S ask back, "What do you mean by threaten? I'm simply—" He knelt on one knee. His right hand on his chest, his left hand touching the ground, he gave a confident smile, just trying to thank the princess. Clairvoyance was activated. Surprised and suspicious of his words, she activated clairvoyance to observe. "Thank you." The truth there was no deceit in S. Taylor's words. She was surprised, her eyes wide as she looked at him, not believing her own eyes. "What?" She looked so surprised. He looked up at her subconsciously, thinking, "The Taylor family Is belongs to is very famous and powerful, but that family has been exploiting the common people and conducting human experiments for a very long time." It reminded him of a powerful person standing before a blood-red castle, a gloomy space, a place where inhumane experiments were conducted with bodies piled up underneath. For the main character, it was a trashy family destined for destruction. A gloomy and horrifying scene appeared with a towering guillotine like a symbol of cruel punishment. The blade of the guillotine was still shiny, reflecting the crimson glow of the sky like hellfire. Below, human heads lay silently in pools of blood, their lifeless faces bearing traces of final horror. Above, the sky was as red as blood. Flocks of black birds flew overhead, creating an obsessive scene as if signaling, "New creation, burnt fish inedible." His only meal was burnt. Perhaps I'll have to endure hunger and cold, but it's better than dying. In the long run, it's extremely good. He looked ahead with resolute eyes, his lips curling into a sinister smile. So I need to persuade Phonia without lying, or I'll be expelled. If I make a wrong move, it could be game over immediately. Everything will end. No, I'll be screwed, won't I? According to the timeline, the period when S. Taylor is around is about a week before the academy starts. Phonia still didn't let down her guard in a combat stance before S, who was kneeling on one knee in front of her. S continued to be lost in his thoughts. So why is the princess here? Suddenly, he stood up and gently probed her. Coming here without guards and in simple clothes means you're completing the placement test. The placement test mission by Professor Glast. A mysterious man who throws magic orbs is a test to search for magic beads in the forest. S closed his eyes and said, Professor Glast's test is known to be extremely harsh. Of course, if it's Princess Phonia who aims for the best class, she'll aim for Class A. She, still in a combat stance, looked at him in surprise and interrogated. Are you flattering me? You haven't changed a bit, have you? As expected, I should request the Academy to expel you immediately. Before she could finish her sentence, S interrupted, but if you don't have my help. Phonia's expression immediately changed, no longer calm as before, but replaced by wide-eyed, unexpected surprise on her face. He leaned close to her with a calm, confident expression and said, You will never get into Class A. If I'm lying in the slightest. Her expression still showed surprise. Then you can expel me too. She stepped through a puddle and walked forward. According to S, if you go to the lake southeast of the forest, there will be a small island. On it, a giant tree grows in the middle of the island. Phonia approached the tree. The surrounding scenery was dazzling. That tree is called Mariuta's guardian tree. There under the tree, something is shining. You will find the gift I left. She picked up the magic bead, looking at it with a critical face, thinking back to what S had shown her. The S. Taylor from 3 days ago was definitely a fraud and incompetent. His terrified face when caught red-handed by Princess Phonia. I still remember the situation vividly. However, the scene of S kneeling to thank her reappeared, the current S. Taylor. Under the canopy of the tree, she held the magic bead and pondered the previous stories, which made her unable to understand what was happening. The placement test was over. The academy scene was like a vast, magnificent castle, its grand campus no different from a place for royal nobles. In a certain classroom, Professor Glast was standing below, speaking up, Bring out the magic beads you all obtained. His serious, slightly intimidating face looked at the students. Glast, Professor of Magic. The students below held up the beads they had collected, looking at the teacher with sparkling eyes. He silently looked at the students, not knowing what else to say. Angrily turning around, All of you go to Class F. The students were dejected, not knowing what else to do. The important thing is to know the intention of the test setter. This test isn't just about finding magic beads. Professor Glast held up 3 gems that should have been found and said, Only those who can find beads filled with magic like this can enter Class A. Only 3 people found those beads. First is Zeke with a somber, sharp face, highlighted by red eyes like emeralds. Second is Loretel with striking orange-red hair and a proud smile. And finally, the person who found the bead at Merita's guardian tree containing unusually high magic power, he declared loudly, pointing over there, is the one who found the bead I hid. Phonia stood up at the teacher's voice, her face serious. You will be the head of the class. On the other side, Ez was still sad because his only meal, the fish, was burnt. His voice was melancholic. It's all burnt. I don't have enough strength to use the spear to catch fish anymore. New creation. Crude fishing rod made by cutting a tree branch with a knife string from cloth and replacing the hook with a small nail. Low durability and very difficult to know if fish are biting or not. 1 star out of 5. His dejected face was baiting a worm onto the hook. He continued to think about her, the 3rd princess of the empire, Phonia Elias Cloel. Since she was young, Princess Phonia could see through lies and sophistry. She sat below, looking up at those people with sharp, determined eyes that saw through deceitful matters. That sharp gaze was the result of an innate skill. Golden pupils that, when clairvoyance was activated, could clearly see all lies. No one could escape her clairvoyance. Therefore, there was no other way but to give her accurate information. as he thought he cast his fishing line into the water. But this led to a bigger problem. The reason why Princess Fonya would be called the Princess of Love, with golden hair, wearing a pure white dress like an angel. After failing the placement test, she would be put into Class F, and that's when everything would begin. However, if Fonya a person of influence in this early stage? Her eyes were skeptical when she heard S's instructions about the magic bead. If she found the hidden bead and entered Class A, the original plot would start to collapse. The image of the pure, innocent Princess of Love would be shattered. Even if I avoid being expelled, all the information I have will be useless. I'll be finished. S held. The fishing rod sighed and pondered. Of course. At this moment, Professor Glast's voice suddenly rang out. The head of the class, Lucy Miro. Fonya's face suddenly darkened, not believing what she heard. And the head of the class was the person snoring, oblivious to the world in front of her. The future probably won't change. She left in anger. Fonya was also reconsidering. Clairvoyance always shows the truth. This really is a magic bead. S. Taylor didn't lie. However, the hand she was holding the magic bead with began to tremble. This isn't a gift. Why did Princess Fonya hide her identity from the beginning? She held the magic bead standing before the giant tree, thinking about everything. She's ashamed of the privileges she'd get if her identity were revealed. She wants to prove herself. She knows this magic bead will give the best result for the test. The image of the magic bead flashing under the tree, but Fonya didn't take it because she didn't find it herself. She put the magic bead back in its original place and left with a displeased expression. The title, Princess of Love, she receives in the future, is not a skill or a stat. While everyone was admiring Lucy, Fonya with a dark expression left the classroom, but it's the title she receives when following the correct plot. I threw out bait for the princess, remembering the scene where he told her, "You will never get into Class A. If I'm lying in the slightest, then you can expel me too." Whether it was a lie or the truth didn't matter. Halfway through, she stopped to ponder something. The princess will always keep it in mind if S. Taylor really lied that the princess would fail the test. Suddenly, she punched the wall hard. She will confidently complete it and punch him in the face. However, S. Taylor didn't lie. While lost in thought, the fish started to tug at the fishing line, causing the water to move. Her inability to get into Class A. The princess now, Fonya's extremely angry face gritting her teeth, said, "S. Taylor, I will keep an eye on you." Nothing more can be done. A fish bit the hook. He pulled the rod up his face, joyful at catching a big fish. Got one. Dawn was gradually breaking. I had to live in a place. He ran quickly towards the academy. I have to run for my life from early morning to get to school on time. While running, he panted from exhaustion. After running for a while, he arrived drenched in sweat, still panting from fatigue. But I'm back now. He stood before the academy with its magnificent campus, a sight that made everyone wish they could study there. Sylvania Academy. Someone's voice spoke loudly for everyone to hear. The academy's opening ceremony will begin. It's great to see the students have worked hard before the new semester begins. Feel free to enjoy the food while listening. Besides the environment of Sylvania Academy, I can hear the whispers welcoming me. Ugh, look at him. How dare he show his face at the opening ceremony? Does he intend to continue studying here? Other students chimed in with their gossip. He calmly cut a piece of meat to eat. This is the winner's reward. Just enjoy it. He put the piece of meat in his mouth to eat. Around him were plates of meat he had finished piled high like mountains. This isn't S. Taylor. My purpose is to graduate. The whispers continued about him. That second-year senior said the entrance exam was very difficult. If you look closely, he looks a bit different, doesn't he? He eats so politely. I have no other purpose. I just want to graduate. The girls who were just gossiping about him continued to another place. Let's go eat. We can eat and talk during the break. What do you think? Honest sounds good, Clara. A soft voice from a stranger spoke up. Strange. Somehow, I wish. The pink-haired girl turned to look at him. He looks like a different person. Nothing happened. Chapter 3. The sky was clear, the air cool. A large, beautiful, yet modern school. Today, Sylvania School was having its opening ceremony. In the vast lecture hall, students were fully assembled, along with loud voices echoing. I am very much looking forward to meeting new and talented faces in this new term, and to see the achievements you all will contribute to Sylvania School. Not yet. In a room with a sign, Head of Department's Office. Just the first day of school. As Taylor walked out of that room, his whole body stiff, as if turned to stone surrounded by a black aura, and I've already been fated to be expelled. A middle-aged man with slicked back hair gave a bright, friendly smile. Who would have thought Phonia would tell the head of department about me? As Taylor was helpless, his eyes suspicious. But seeing that frail old man smile and speak so warmly, she must have spoken well of me. As Taylor's lips twitched, then he sighed. Anyway, I was very lucky to escape being expelled. His eyes became firm and determined. It's best to be careful not to deviate too far from the original plot. The system panel appeared above with a bow and arrow symbol. Combat ability details. Type apprentice fighter. Specialized weapon bow. Proficiency level 1. I just got survival skills to stay alive. A pure white rabbit looked around blankly. Just practiced magic suitable for a magic department student. Couldn't stay still for 3 seconds. An arrow flew quickly from somewhere, hitting the rabbit's neck, causing it to fall to the ground. No weapon is better than a bow combined with those two things. Because once I use survival skills more proficiently and can create better quality bows, then... He approached the rabbit, picked up the arrow still stuck in it, his other hand holding a sharp knife. I'll be able to enchant arrows with spirits and spells, although it's obvious that spirits and spells are not the same. Suddenly, something startled him. His surprised eyes narrowed. Not far from there, just across a river, a pink-haired young woman was sitting under an ancient tree, engrossed in reading a book. My talent. It's Janica Fellover. She read so intently that she couldn't take her eyes off the book. Her hair fluttered gently in the cool breeze. Janica Fellover, Year 2, top of the Genius Spirit Mage class. Suddenly her eyes glanced elsewhere, her cheeks slightly flushed. She looked towards S. Taylor and asked, "You're the funny person Mariuta mentioned, right?" To S. Taylor's surprise, Janica Fellover instantly flew from the big tree, crossed the river, and appeared right in front of S. Taylor with a cheerful face, happily saying, "S. Taylor, right, I'm Janica Fellover. I'm also a second year like you. You can call me Janica." Due to Janica Fellover's sudden appearance, S. Taylor was somewhat startled and awkward. Huh? When did she get here? Janica Fellover, with clear eyes, asked him, Scared you, huh? Wondering how I knew you, right? She cheerfully and excitedly gestured, saying, "You see, this forest is the territory of Mariuta, a high-level spirit. I often stay here and listen to her tell many stories in my mind." He asked curiously, "The master of this forest told you about me?" Janica Fellover happily replied, "Mariuta can be a bit nosy sometimes. But everything in this forest is within her sight, so how could she not notice an uninvited guest?" S. Taylor thoughtfully looked at the rabbit in his hand and thought, "Uninvited guest?" S. Taylor's face darkened with a hint of worry. "It's true. I've killed a few too many squirrels and chopped down many trees too." Janica Fellover saw his worry move closer to comfort him, making him unconsciously feel awkward. "Don't worry about those trivial things. The creatures in this forest also follow the natural law of eat or be eaten. Mariuta doesn't have any opinion on those things you did either." S. Taylor's cheeks were slightly red as he glanced away, avoiding direct eye contact with her. "I guess even a scary-looking giant wolf has a kind heart, huh?" Janica Fellover stared at him, startled, as if she had discovered something. She smiled brightly. "Very surprising, right, haha? Oh, I have something I want to show you." Her eyes wide, she extended her hand towards him. A faint blue light emanated from her palm. "Cute and adorable, right? Yesterday, as soon as I met it, I made a contract with it right away." S. Taylor stared at the thing in her palm, thinking to himself, "A contract? Is it a spirit?" Seeing his reaction, she immediately suggested, "Do you want to try touching it?" S. Taylor hesitated for a moment, his lips slightly quivering. Wanting to be friends with Janica is always possible, but... He clenched his fist, his face slightly worried, and said, "I can't see any spirits, so I don't know how cute or adorable it is. More accurately, I don't have the ability to see them." Janica Fellover was startled and surprised, asking, "You can't see spirits?" S. Taylor calmly turned and left, replying, "Yeah. Anyway, I came here to find food. I'll go first." S. Taylor's face turned ashen again, dissatisfied. "Only by following the original plot can I get information that benefits me. Janika Fellover is an extremely important person in the original plot. She, with piercing red eyes and a lifeless face, exuded a dark, cold, and gloomy aura. And I'm never allowed to get close. She still stared intently at his retreating figure. Her eyes gradually darkened, no longer the sparkling eyes she had when talking to S. Taylor. Remembering the scene of S. Taylor with an embarrassed, shy face saying, "I guess even a scary-looking giant wolf has a kind heart, huh?" Janika Fellover was stroking something around it. "Why the blue light?" She said, "You're right, Mariuda. He's indeed a very interesting person." "It turned out to be a beautiful, radiant wolf," Janika Fellover said, while stroking the wolf. "Thinking back and forth just now, maybe he really couldn't see you. Who is he really? Besides," she jumped onto the wolf lying on its soft fur and sighed. "I tried so hard to be friendly with him, but why does he only say means what, oh dear?" She was dejected. "Well then, we'll meet again later anyway." Looking from above, the surroundings were covered in green trees. In the center was a lake, and in the middle of it a small piece of land where a tree was glowing brightly. Time to start investigating, I guess. A map appeared. Around the road were hills and trees. My place is very far from the school. As Taylor, drenched in sweat, panted, "I have to run for my life from early morning to get to class just on time. Just by moving from home to school, my stats increase. It's truly ridiculous." He studied diligently. "If I want to get a scholarship, I have to study even harder. I use burnt twigs and alum stone to take notes, then borrow books from the library to read more." His face became bewildered and anxious as he sat by the river washing clothes. "I wonder if they'll be dry by tomorrow. On the way home, I also washed the sweat-soaked clothes to wear the next day. You probably think washing clothes ends my day, but no." He checked very carefully. "Why does this beef jerky smell so fishy? I also have to check if there's enough dry firewood. Drinking water and beef jerky for lunch tomorrow, no. Because of all that, I only sleep 4 hours a day." As Taylor started to frown in annoyance. "But that's not what bothers me the most. Hey," he called out towards the hiding Janika Fellover. "How much longer are you going to follow me?" She was startled and scared. "You knew," hearing that he became even angrier and shouted, "Hiding like you're not hiding? It would be strange if I didn't know." S. Taylor angrily frowned, his purple eyes flashing as he roared furious, "Don't you know who I am? I'm S. Taylor. S. Taylor, the most evil person in the world. Why do you keep loitering around me?" Janika Fellover just said softly, "Well, those are just other people's comments about you, right?" Which made him startled and surprised after hearing it. She smiled brightly, her eyes full of light. "I don't even know what kind of person you are yet." He frowned, his eyes bewildered. "That's right, Janika Fellover is that kind of character." Janika Fellover appeared with a gentle, friendly, radiant face. At first glance she seemed innocent and naive, but in reality she was a girl with an independent mind. However, but in another version of her, her eyes were fiery red, gloomy, and so cold it gave you goosebumps. Because I already know what awaits in the future, I can't just answer her with a cheerful smile. Because Janika Fellover? She exuded a powerful and enormous force capable of destroying the world. She is the final boss of Act 1. He closed his eyes tightly, gritted his teeth, and silently cursed, "I'm the bad guy. I'm a bastard." But she's also the only character who smiles at S. Taylor. "I don't want to go this far, but so our meeting like this is fate. Could you help me with something?" she asked cheerfully, her eyes sparkling. "What is it?" S. Taylor's face darkened as he calmly said, "You see it too. I'm in a mess. My family abandoned me. I don't have a single penny on me." He said something that made her freeze on the spot, speechless. "So, could you lend me some money?" Her eyes became lifeless, no longer seeing a future. "I'll borrow it and pay you back, not borrow it forever. Friends are for helping each other in times of trouble like this, right? I'll only borrow it for a short time. How much do you have?" Every year, Janika receives the top scholarship in her class, but talent alone isn't enough for others to see her excellence. Janika Fellover diligently sat reading every book, absorbing new knowledge. Her family was so poor that without a scholarship, she couldn't enroll or continue studying at school. Janika is from a farming family, so her weakness is money. The two of them sank into a quiet silence. She seemed to want to evaporate from this world after saying, "I'm sorry. He was slightly anxious, sweating. Janica fell over, rejected. Beautiful Clarar weather, white clouds, golden sun. 3 days later. S. Taylor was still diligently hunting rabbits. I don't think doing this is very good, but I don't want to get involved anymore with the important characters in the plot. His eyes became sharp and determined. It's best to be careful not to deviate too far from the plot. Then he approached a tent made of tree branches. He had just peeked in when he was startled and dropped the basket from his back. He was terrified, startled, sweating profusely. Huh. What in the world? Speaking of importance, this character is even more important than Janika. Not only classmates but even professors would be wide-eyed and open-mouthed when talking about this person. She is a rare genius and the strongest character in The Failed Swordsman of Sylvania. It's Lucy Marrow. She lay there sleeping soundly, oblivious to the world. Lucy Marrow. Then she woke up stretched and yawned widely. How on earth did she end up sleeping here? He recoiled in panic. What is she doing in this valley? The original plot must be careful. She sat up, tired and dejected. You're too noisy, I can't sleep. He was utterly bewildered. I didn't do anything, it wasn't you. She sleepily pointed at something behind him. It's the wolf as big as a house over there. He was startled, scared, his heart stopped. His eyes narrowed. It's been talking to you all this time. A wolf's head emerged, exuding a blue glow around it. He turned back in amazement. It asked for your help when that day comes. A giant wolf stood right in front of him. Save Janika at all costs. Chapter 4. S. Taylor held an axe in one hand and a rope in the other. Let's get to work. Lucy has only been in Sector 2 for 2 days. Nothing has changed, right? Not long after I realized that thought was too complacent. Suddenly, the panel mission appeared: joint combat practice. In the middle, where the light shone, was a competition stage surrounded by the cheers of students. This was literally a simulated duel. A tall, burly man was using his strength to attack his opponent. To minimize casualties as much as possible, students in the combat department mostly used fake weapons. A series of characters appeared: the merciful Princess Fonya, with lustrous golden hair, and Loratel arms crossed confidently, looking ahead. Zeke, with sharp eyes. Elementalist Janica, with a radiant smile. Lazy Lucy, in a tired cloak, lay down on the white floor. Klebios, a sword on his shoulder with lifeless eyes. These characters, I could talk about them until tomorrow and still not be done. But the most important person is still the main character anyway. Taylor, with a determined gaze, held his sword pointed straight ahead. The failed holy sword Taylor. Next is Taylor's match. S. Taylor's sparkling eyes looked towards the stands, watching intently. Someone was using their power to create a large vortex. Not far away were thick plumes of smoke. The competition floor was dented. It was Zeke exuding a green aura that enhanced his presence, because the winners in the joint combat practice chapter are first-year students as well as the main character Taylor, except for one incident. Suddenly, Janika appeared from nowhere, cheerfully saying, "Hey." Janika fell over. Before his helplessness. I can't believe she still cheerfully ran over to greet me after I asked her for money. His expression darkened, his face judgmental as he looked at her cheerfully, saying, "The match list is out. If Lucy is like a wild cat, then Janika is like a cute puppy." He turned his face away, not bothering to look. "No need, I'm not very interested." She smiled and asked, "Why aren't you curious who you'll be fighting?" As Taylor was startled upon hearing this, his eyes narrowed in stunned surprise. "Wait a minute. I have to go to the arena too." He hurriedly looked at the paper with a dazed expression, bewildered. In the original plot, S. Taylor is already expelled by now. So, who is my opponent? Impossible. Taylor clenched one fist, the other on his chest, and declared loudly, "I will show you." His eyes were full of determination. "My best." He smiled, observing intently. "That's right. It doesn't matter who I fight now. I have to pay attention to Taylor, even if it's just through a screen. I've lived with the character Taylor for a very long time." The image of Taylor kneeling on one knee, tightly gripping his sword. Game over. Play again. Yes, no. However, the extremely painful ending leading to unforgettable true endings. Do you want to return to Is? That journey I've been through it countless times. Among the many paths he could choose. He bowed his head, his eyes dazed. No path is easy. I knew I would live my life, but He clenched his fist, his eyes welling up with tears, sparkling with admiration. I'm still cheering for you, Taylor. Oh, by the way, suddenly the loudspeaker blared, making him bewildered. I repeat, first-year student Lucy Miro. Is there any student named Lucy Miro here? S. Taylor was so astonished he broke out in a cold sweat. Please complete your preparations and enter the arena. Where did Lucy disappear to? He helplessly looked at a black box where someone was sleeping soundly. Lucy covered her mouth, yawned, and reluctantly went to the arena. Finish your match first. First-year top of the class, Lucy Miro versus Taylor McLeod. Taylor had been waiting for a long time, ready in a combat stance. His hand gripped the sword tightly, full of spirit. The main character of this world, born with the destiny to become a swordsman. Although he had never held a sword before, with just one swing, the first in his life, he used all his strength to swing the sword forward. A bright light shone around him. He could cut down Lucy's lightning magic. Lucy was unable to believe her eyes. The spell she thought would surely win and injure her opponent was useless. Taylor would take advantage of her opening. Taylor moved like the wind, quickly rushing to where Lucy was standing. To close the distance unexpectedly, Lucy used intermediate-level lightning bolt magic to strike Taylor. Huge and powerful green lightning bolts appeared on the arena floor, sending dust and smoke flying. Taylor was completely overwhelmed by Lucy's instinctive magic. But because she used intermediate-level magic, Lucy was disqualified. Taylor covered in injuries but still gripping his sword tightly, and Taylor was declared the victor. S. Taylor in the present thought of that, closed his eyes and cried. This is the legendary scene. Taylor and Lucy, when fully present on the arena floor, the referee stepped forward and shouted loudly, "All right, the match." Along with the referee's resounding shout, "Begin." The arena was the focus of all attention. Taylor, with a determined gaze, raised his fist. "I'm here." Lucy calmly created a magic circlare. A huge surge of power shot out. Before 3 seconds, Taylor was sent flying straight into the wall, dust and smoke billowing. Everyone in the stands was extremely shocked. The most shocked was probably S. Taylor. She tiredly yawned and scratched the back of her neck. Seeing the scene before them, people in the stands began to whisper and gossip. "It's over. Surely you can't beat the top student of the academy." It's easy to understand. Rushing at a mage as if fighting barehanded, what can you do? The life of Taylor McLeod is always full of challenges. Taylor's hand twitched slightly. Born a forgotten season, he was a failed student who had never achieved good results since entering the academy. His hand trembled, a loser never acknowledged by anyone. He approached the sword, gripped it tightly. While everyone thought he had lost despite all the mockery, he slowly stood up, his body covered in painful injuries, even in a moment full of despair. He looked down from the stand, smiling hopefully. Taylor, never. Taylor slowly stood up, a red aura emanating from his body. Stop hoping. His smile became triumphant and satisfied. That's it, my friend. You can do it. Keep it up. He flew towards where Lucy was standing. Lucy's eyes flashed with panic, startled. Lucy Miro. He in the stands laughed louder and louder. At this time, Lucy will use lightning magic. However, unexpectedly, his eyes widened in shock, pupils constricting in alarm. As the sword neared Lucy's face, suddenly, a green surge of power shot out, suppressing Taylor's sword. A vast source of power emanated, causing Lucy to flinch and step back a little. Taylor was astonished and horrified. That magic was like a majestic, awe-inspiring beast roaring. It formed a massive tornado, launching Taylor high into the air. Taylor was sent flying, crashing straight into the wall, smoke billowing around. His body was stuck firmly to the wall. Then he slowly fell to the ground, and the most astonished person was still him. Not lightning magic, Lucy, with a bright purple glow like fresh food devouring everything, but wind. The referee's voice rang out, "Lucy Miro wins." Along with it, cheers erupted. Taylor was knocked down, lying dejectedly on one side, his eyes dazed, devoid of hope. As Taylor was too surprised to speak. Lost. Chapter 6. Isla Chis said with tearful eyes, "If it weren't for you, Taylor would have had to go through a difficult time anyway." She rushed out, spreading her arms to shield Taylor as if preventing S from getting closer. "Don't bother him anymore," Isla Chis shouted at S. Taylor. Immediately after, Taylor also stood up, his hand clenched tightly, hesitantly asking, "You're still in school, huh?" Seeing Taylor's appearance, S seemed to have realized something. His eyes widened as he thought, he's recovered. A fighting spirit that never falls no matter how strong the opponent. S. Roe Taylor. He called S's name with full defensiveness, stepping in front of Isla as if to shield and protect her, his gaze fixed straight on him. S looked into Taylor McLeod's eyes at this moment, thinking, his eyes are burning with will. I understand. He remembered Isla running away, realizing, while I was confronting the princess, his childhood friend and greatest source of encouragement, Isla Chiz had run for her life towards the door without looking back. He could imagine Isla's arm around Taylor's shoulder, his whole body covered in traces of the fight comforting him. You'll get through it this time too. That's what you're best at. You can do it. Don't be disappointed just because of that. Taylor spoke again, pulling him back from his thoughts. Why are you here? Do you have a problem with me? Both he and the girl standing behind him looked at S, suspicious of the intentions of the one who had harmed him before. He thought again, with Ayla by his side, Taylor will stand up again and again. Hesitating for a moment, S. Taylor found a suitable explanation and replied, your swordsmanship is amazing. I got to see it again. Taylor was confused, extremely wary. He asked back, what are you plotting? Yes, I've been through a lot with Taylor, and I was by his side until the very end. Let's be honest. Turning around, S casually replied, nothing at all. S recalled in his mind, I thought he would save the world, so I just had to think of ways to survive. I discriminated because he's the main character and would do all the hard work for me. But now, I feel at ease. The corner of S's lips suddenly curled up, his facial muscles relaxing. It wasn't because the deviated plot had returned to the original, but because Taylor, the person I had stood shoulder to shoulder with, was okay. That was enough. Looking at the image of S. Taylor with his hands in his pockets, walking with contentment, both Taylor and Isla were confused, momentarily unable to say anything. But then both of them quickly reacted, still frozen in place. Their entire bodies lost color as they contemptuously said in unison, what the heck? Why is he acting so cool? Well, this can't be avoided. S knew how these two would react. He walked away without looking back. But maybe I still need a few pairs of pants for this forgetfulness? Suddenly, with a loud boom, S whipped around. Behind him, an intense fiery red light appeared. A battle was taking place in the building next to where he was. S. Taylor calmly watched, not surprised in the slightest. Is it time? According to the plot? Everyone will witness this while sitting in the nail building, he thought. It turned out that light was a majestic red dragon spewing fire to attack. Then a girl cast a magic circlare. She launched an attack, instantly freezing it. The ice covering the dragon quickly became a solid block of ice, yet it didn't hold for long. As the ice cracked, another girl jumped straight onto the ferocious dragon. It was a pink-haired, red-eyed girl, smiling gently. Princess Loteo and spirit mage Janika Fellover are sparring, he thought. Even if it's a different form than the original, I'm sure Taylor and Ayla are also watching. Just as he thought, Taylor and Ayla were wide-eyed mouths agape, watching the fierce battle unfold. Taylor's eyes were full of admiration as well as awe. Open your eyes, Taylor, because one of countless challenges is heading your way. He silently sent a message to him. At this moment, the situation seemed disadvantageous for the red-haired girl. Her struggle and difficulty were evident from her expression. The fire dragon raged, breathing a powerful stream of fire down at her from its mouth. But he knew the final boss of Act 1 was Janika Fellover. Janika smiled as she attacked, only her beauty visible in the blazing red fire. After the fierce battle with the dragon, a crowd gathered around the pretty pink-haired girl, continuously cheering and congratulating. Wow, congratulations, Janika. Janika was the only student in her grade to defeat a new student. Good personality and amazing spirit summoning skills. How are you so perfect? The girl on top smiled brightly. Thank you. Suddenly, the urgent voices of two men interrupted, making her pay attention and widen her eyes. Patient coming through. Please make way. Janika stared blankly at the red-haired girl she had just fought with, now covered in injuries, lying on a stretcher being hurriedly carried away by two men. Meanwhile, the surrounding students were still focused on her, constantly saying, how can your spirit... Congratulations, Janika. Janika is truly the pride of the second years. They continued, not noticing Janica Fellover's lifeless eyes and frozen posture. Back to S. Taylor's thoughts. Different from the original Lucy defeated Taylor, it ended with the main character participating in joint combat practice. This time, Janica Fellover had become the defender of honor for the second years. Outside, more and more people were surrounding Janica. He continued while thinking he brushed off the dust from his coat. Janica already had many friends, but this accident will make things even crazier for her. Then he left. Only his back and the sound of S's footsteps heading towards the door were visible. Well, that's good too. I won't see her at the tent much anymore. One evening at S. Taylor's residence, he was thinking about recent events. When I get involved with the main character, my head starts spinning. It had been 2 weeks since the joint combat practice. Without the main character, I could focus on studying and surviving without worrying anymore. Is looked at the cage placed under the stream. I have a fishing net, so the food issue is temporarily resolved. Brushing back his drenched hair, his blue eyes looked at the stat panel before him. S. Taylor's body was noticeably stronger than before. Firm muscles clearly defined his physique. He silently exclaimed, "Is it because my strength stat is increasing? I feel my body getting stronger day by day." It's still too early to be lazy, S. reminded himself as he walked. Coincidentally, Janica was in a nearby bush, her hand slightly covering her blushing cheeks, as she saw his strong, drenched like a rat body wearing only pants. Uttering a soft, she shyly said, "S, do you like being naked?" S was startled by Janica's appearance, both embarrassed and shouting while pointing at her. "You suddenly appear here and say, 'What the heck? I just came back from fishing.'" Both their faces were flushed. Calming down, Janica approached the fire while S spoke. "What's so special about this place that you keep coming back?" Sitting on a log placed nearby, she replied, "This is my secret place. It makes me feel like an adventurer, and that's very interesting." She gently, with a hint of shyness, looked at the fire and said, "I want to talk to you a bit more, and I also need some advice, I guess." Advice. While asking, he put on his shirt, thinking to himself, "Why me?" She continued, "You left early then, so you probably didn't notice. But in the previous joint combat victory, I injured someone." The image of Loteo in pain lying on a stretcher was recalled in his mind. S recalled with some judgment, "Isn't her opponent using intermediate magic? Intermediate magic is forbidden. Well, it doesn't really matter to someone with a kind heart like Janica." Janica Fellover continued her story, her voice sadder. "I try to forget, but I think I try too hard. I can't escape those thoughts." "I understand," S replied. She looked at S again and asked, "Should I go apologize to her even though my friend will stop me and say it was her fault first?" Without hesitation, he naturally answered her question, "Then do it. If you think it's the right thing." She was slightly surprised for a moment and looked at him. Looking at Janica, S assessed. The lovely and lively second-year student Janica is a precious treasure in many different ways to everyone, accompanied by an image of her radiant smile. While she hugged her knees tighter, he continued to think, so if she feels guilty or blames herself, people will come to encourage her and stand by her side. S glanced at Janica. "It's good to have someone by your side no matter what happens. But that still can't erase what happened. That's probably why she came to me." As expected. S. Janica Fellover stretched. Smiling contentedly, she said, "You never, unconditionally, stand by my side." S clasped his hands, looked at her and said, "Sorry if I offended you." Janica quickly waved her hands. No, you misunderstood. I don't feel offended at all." In her heart, she also had a thought. He's different from last year. S could somewhat understand the girl. Janica might be a cheerful girl, lively, but she's also very perceptive. Janica also started thinking about S. Even when asking for money in difficult times, he didn't show the usual desperation seen in others. This boy is indirectly telling her not to try to get close. But those aspects of S made Janica feel strangely comfortable. Smiling, she said, "Actually, I feel reassured now. I wish people in this world were like you, S." That night was unusually peaceful. The faint light of fireflies and the rustling of the forest trees made the scenery even more beautiful. Not knowing what was about to happen, the next morning at Sylvania Academy, S strode quickly down the corridor, his face dark, his mood not very calm. He thought, "This is serious." The Failed Swordsman of Sylvania is called a masterpiece, but very few people see the ending. New players will encounter many bad endings early on. For example, if you save a girl in the bushes from bullies during the placement exam, you will witness the princess's secret. She will send people to kidnap Taylor, and thus, bad ending. Taylor was assassinated. In the monster-slaying practice part, if you ignore your childhood friend Isla and form a relationship with the princess, bad ending. 7. Isla died from falling off a cliff. It was because Taylor was supposed to save Isla, who was about to fall off the cliff. If you protect the princess from the fire spirit Takan summoned by Isekai'd ending 3, Taylor was burned to death. I have to run now, Suddenly a female voice interrupted his thoughts. Senior, didn't you hear me? S jumped. Why do you keep following me? The girl replied, I didn't expect you to grit your teeth and ignore me for so long. S was visibly annoyed. Of course I have to grit my teeth and ignore her. Isn't it too obvious? S looked at her and thought to himself, the fourth female lead of the Failed Swordsman of Sylvania? The only daughter of business tycoon Elter Kichin Princess Loteo, Kichin also known as the Crusher of Newbies. She, with bandages on her body, looked at S. Taylor with a confident demeanor. This red-haired girl with blue eyes smiled and requested, I want to buy 2 hours of your time, Senior S. While replying, Loteo put money into Issa's lapel. Keep it. You know I just think the more people on my side, the better. 3 gold coins were now in S. Taylor's pocket. His eyes were pensive, seemingly having understood. She realized just by intuition that she would have to fight Princess Fonya politically to dominate the academy, and she has to start looking for allies from now on. Accompanied by an image of Loteo with scheming eyes standing behind Fonya's shadow. The corner of his mouth curled up as if he had grasped the situation. He extended his hand towards Loteo, saying, then at least shake hands. Thinking she had achieved her goal, her eyes clarily showed scheming. She extended her hand, thinking, for those who have lived their whole lives in wealth, a little poverty is enough to crush their hearts. The two shook hands. But surprisingly, for those in such a situation, a small amount of money is enough to make them fall. They will sell their entire fortune, self-respect, and even themselves to chase money. The metaphorical image is a scene of violence. A man with a gaunt face, poor, snatching the few coins contemptuously given by others. Luring people like this is so simple. Sadly, it should have been like that. She froze after he left. The 3 gold coins had somehow returned to Loteo Ketchin's hand. Knowing for sure S had used the handshake as an excuse to return them to her, she wasn't angry, but just watched S. Taylor's retreating figure, thinking, how interesting. At this moment, S, who was leaving, was extremely tense. He gritted his teeth, thinking, if I had accepted it, I could have lived better. If so, it would be truly shameful. S. Taylor was scared, unable to imagine the obsessions he would have to endure if I get caught between the Crusher of Newbies and Janica. And so he resolved, at all costs, I must avoid anything that deviates from the original plot. That night at the Sylvania Academy dormitory, Loteo Kachin didn't feel insulted by S's blunt refusal at all. Understanding the pros and cons, benefits, and self-interest, the perfect businesswoman didn't let the opportunity slip through her fingers. Here Loteo Kachin stepped out in her pajamas, meeting Janica fell over. Oh, I didn't expect to see you here. Janica replied, ah, it's you, Loteo. You look different with your hair down. The opportunity right before her was igniting Loteo, Ketchin's indomitable spirit, to make Janica Fellover an ally. Her green eyes shone like those of a cunning snake. Recalling the previous practice match, she narrated, you know, people talked a lot about me for using forbidden intermediate magic in the joint battle. It's been a while, but I still want to apologize if I have the chance. While listening, Janica nodded, showing empathy, while Loteo thought to herself, I just want to see how the top student of the second year is. Even so, I still have to pay a rather high price. Looking at Loteo Ketchin's bandaged forearm, Janica asked with concern, your wound still hasn't healed, huh? Loteo gave a polite smile and replied, it'll probably heal soon. You don't need to worry too much, Senior Janica. The princess was starting to scheme in her heart. Janica is very similar to the main characters in fairy tales. Will exploiting her guilt help me control her more easily? However, she was immediately surprised by Janica Fellover's question. I bet your conversation with S went smoothly. Huh? She was startled and asked back, "What are you talking about all of a sudden?" Janika tilted her head, giving a harmless smile as usual. "I told them to restrain themselves if it's personal, but spirits love to gossip." As she spoke, 5 spirits appeared around her, each with a different color, representing fire, earth, water, metal, and wood. The power emanating from this person even made Loteo Ketchen wary. "I can hear almost every conversation happening around the north side of the forest." Slightly hesitant, Loteo replied, "Meaning?" "Even so, I'm still touched that you willingly invested money for me," Janica said, thinking about the deal Loteo proposed when talking to S. Taylor. Her face darkened as she approached Loteo. "Money can't buy sincerity?" Again thinking about S's actions, the scene of S. Taylor returning 3 gold coins to Loteo, she continued, "For me, S's choice is even more touching. Even after that display of overwhelming presence, Janica returned to being an innocent girl, harmless. She scratched her head shyly and said, "I'm a bit conceited, aren't I? Because it's my first time being a senior, I'm a bit boastful, aren't I? How embarrassing." However, Loteo Kitchen was still on guard. "I need to reevaluate her. I have to go now. It takes a lot of preparation to make a contract with a high-level spirit. Recently, I've received a lot of support, so I have to work even harder," Janika said, and turned to leave under the moonlight shining through the academy's glass window. Loteo Kitchen realized. Janika Fellover is similar to the main character in fairy tales. I was wrong. A model person. Not at all. Janika Fellover suddenly stopped before the door, saying before leaving, "Oh, right. Loteo, I'm sorry about the other day. Because of me, you were quite badly injured, right? I hope you get well soon," she said with a meaningful gaze and smile. Loteo thought again. Even though she completely understands the dark side of this world, she can still maintain her cheerful personality. Click. The door closed with Janica Fellover's departure, leaving Loteo standing with her arms crossed in the same spot. She tilted her head slightly, whispering, "Ugh, this is difficult." Her eyebrows furrowed slightly, but just now she looked strangely tense. At this moment, behind the door of Janika Fellover's room, she no longer hid the tension in her heart. She sat leaning against the door, her arms wrapped around her knees, looking up and talking to herself. "I have to try harder because it's really good when people place their hopes in me." One morning, the weather was clear and the sun was high in the sky. Its sunlight shone down on S. Taylor's clothesline. The girl Lucy nearby looked annoyed at the pile of clothes in front of her. "It stinks too much." Bang, his pile of clothes was hit. Dust and clothes flew everywhere. He cried out, "Ugh, I just hung them up." Suddenly, noticing the presence of a stranger, he looked towards the other person while his shirt was still covering his head. "Who is it?" It turned out to be the head maid of the high-class dormitory, Olis Hall Biomaya. The short-haired girl looked at S with golden eyes. The uniform she was wearing clearly showed her position as a maid. In her hand, she was carrying a basket. S remembered, "She's the one who kicked me out of there." S. Taylor awkwardly smiled and said to the maid, "You mean this?" Biomaya looked around S's living space. Her voice was somewhat cold and stern, like a strict person. "I know you're here. Miss Janica has told me a lot about you. Even so, I didn't know you were living like this." She looked at Ys again and said, "Glad you've changed positively," she praised, as wondered where, but could only mumble. Bio's words went in one ear and out the other, and his gaze remained fixed on the ground. At this moment, countless thoughts were racing through S. Taylor's mind. The maids of Olis Hall are a group of elite women who handle the clearing of the residence perfectly, including cooking for the students. His eyes were glued to the basket in Beomaya's hand as if it were a treasure. S continued to think, in that basket must be the most wonderful ingredients this maid has gathered from the forest. That's high-level information I can't get just by reading books. He considered, let's see, the event where Beomaya influences the main plot. Meanwhile, Bio continued to speak, "You don't have to be so formal." Her eyes maintained their cold expression. "Just talk to me normally like when you were at Olis." S. Taylor suddenly replied, "Never mind." Biomaya's eyes widened in surprise. After thinking S had come to a conclusion, there's no event where Beomaya directly influences the main plot. His attitude changed abruptly to a fawning one, immediately trying to curry favor. "How could I speak so casually to a hard-working maid like you? As for that basket, he said in a pleading tone, silently thinking, then it's probably okay to be friends with her, right? The system screen displayed the text, you have heard explanations about types of herbs, edible mushrooms, and herbs from Biomaya. The basket full of edible ingredients that could be found right in that forest was like a treasure to S. Taylor. Creation complete. Craftsmanship increased, the system announced. New product fish net system. You have woven the net correctly. Connect to a tree branch and set it up to avoid collapsing when encountering groundwater. Fish caught in the net will survive for a few days. Difficulty, 2 stars. Besides the fish trap, his living place also had racks for drying reserved meat. I've gotten a lot of meat and fish. My food needs are about to be taken care of. Placing the golden cup now, containing water and some ingredients in the middle of the firewood and stones, he shouted, ignite! Beneath the cup, a bright red flame immediately flared up. S looked at the screen displaying fire magic, ignite level 10, windblade level 10, and laughed, thinking, I still only possess 2 basic spells, but I use them so much that I've reached proficiency level 10 without even realizing it. The tea was ready. The aroma of that tea spread through the space. The screen appeared again. New product herbal tea. Tea made from fragrant herbs that Biomaya showed you. Difficulty, 1.5 stars. S continued with his thoughts. Using them to chop firewood or cook significantly increases my survival ability. The proof is, while thinking, he lifted the teacup. Between his hand and the hot cup, there was a small leaf to prevent burns. The sunset scene, the sun was in the process of setting below the horizon. As Taylor sat there, thinking with satisfaction, I've finished my work and the sun still hasn't set. Honestly, this is quite fun. The more he thought, the more he smiled with contentment, as if he had achieved what he wanted. Suddenly looking up at the sky, S. Taylor saw a star sparkling brighter than any other. It seemed to be descending towards him. Until now, he ended his train of thought. A very loud boom. That star shot straight down with lightning speed. Both S. Taylor and his tent were sent flying. In the thick dust and smoke, Ed Taylor lay where the star had flattened everything, exclaiming in shock, What the heck? My tent? Ed looked sorrowfully at his ruined tent. From where the star had fallen, someone coughed. Luckily for Ed Taylor, the star wasn't debris, but Lucy, a silver-haired, purple-eyed girl sitting in the crater she had just created from her fall from the sky. Almost died, she said, coughing violently from the dust still in her pajamas. A mystical purple magical aura emanated from her. Ed Taylor looked at the girl sitting amidst the smoke, thinking in astonishment, Lucy. In the deep crater created by the recent fall, Lucy sat trying to compose herself. Still startled by the incident, she muttered, nearly died. Ed Taylor stood up. Dusting off his clothes, looked at Lucy and asked, Huh, you nearly died? He wondered to himself, who is the most powerful mage on the continent talking to? She remained seated, huddled and trembling as she called the maid's name, Belmaya. Although he knew who it was, Ed still asked, who is that person? Are they a good person? Lucy shuddered, recalling the image of the maid Belle with bloodshot eyes, murderous intent radiating from her fists, clenched walking towards her. I behaved as usual, but I don't understand why she became so sensitive. She approached me, her fists clenched. Lucy lowered her face slightly, recounting embarrassedly, because I was so surprised I ran away. Ed approached and inquired, you must be in a lot of pain, right? He watched Lucy let out a sigh as she climbed out of the large hole. She replied, of course. Ed gritted his teeth slightly, his expression not very pleasant, cursing inwardly. Ah, Miss Belle? Maya? What kind of life have you been living? Despite having just caused the incident, Lucy casually asked, do you have anything to eat? Thwack. A small branch from Ed Taylor's hand flew and hit her head. Ed yelled angrily, still asking, you blew everything up, what's left? Lucy let out a small cry, rubbing the spot on her head where the branch had hit. Ed let out a surprised, huh, wondering, no protective magic. She probably noticed his confusion and explained, my mana is depleted, still rubbing her head. Huh, really? Ed Taylor said, his voice dark. Her eyes were panicked, welling with tears. Ed's expression had never been this angry. He raised his hand to her forehead, fingers poised to flick it. But first, This is punishment for my house that you destroyed." Then Lucy's scream echoed through the entire forest enough to show his wrath. He continued, "And this part is for the kind Miss Belle Maya." Cut to a scene in the school library. Ed Taylor thought with determination, "I need a sturdier house. Come on, let's build a proper wooden house. For a busy person like me, it's so convenient to get all the information I need at once just by coming to the library." Ed closed the book he was reading. Design data, necessary materials. All that's left is to trim the trees and finish the roof. He talked to himself. A voice made him look up. It's closing time. A pink-haired girl approached Ed, who was sitting between two stacks of books he had just been studying, and said, "Senior, you're studying so hard." Ed replied, "Oh, is it closing time already? I'm sorry." The girl with pigtails smiled charmingly at him. It was Isekai'd, a first-year magic student. Smiling warmly, she said, "When I see someone as focused on studying as you, senior, it motivates me to study too. My name is Isekai'd." Her sparkling gray eyes stared at Ed with admiration. He broke into a sweat, thinking, "What's this? That eager look. Does she want to know my name?" Ed slightly turned his head away and replied, "And I'm Ed Taylor." Upon hearing the answer, Elka's face immediately showed a reaction all too familiar to Ed Taylor. The excitement on her face vanished. Ed thought, "Just as expected, my bad reputation can't disappear immediately. A bad reputation is the hardest thing to erase in this academy. Compared to the rumors, it's completely different," Elka said, making Ed's eyes widen at her unusual attitude. She continued, "In just a few days, you've read all those books on elemental science that I find difficult even now. You also sit in one place studying so diligently, reading more than 6 specialized books at once." As she spoke, her eyes were fixed on the stack of books beside him. She continued, "Why are there rumors that you don't know anything and are just pretending to be smart?" She laughed innocently, cheerfully. "You really can't believe rumors." An image of Ed Taylor from behind, walking majestically in his red cloak, appeared in her mind. "I'm also lucky to have the chance to know a genuinely talented person like you, senior. Therefore, I will support you with all my heart." Elka's hands were still, clenched, her voice even more enthusiastic than before. Ed replied, "Thank you." Preparing to leave, Isekai'd waved goodbye to Ed Taylor. "Well, then get home safe, senior. I'll clear in this place up for a bit, then head back to the dorm." Suddenly, rumble. The ground began to shake. "What's that?" Ed Taylor's eyes widened. Both of them staggered unsteady from the sudden tremor. Elka suddenly looked at the bookshelf next to her. A few books had lost their balance and were falling straight towards her. The screen changed to a mystical purple system display, Volume 1, Final Chapter, The Battle of Glasgow Begin. A giant magic circulator appeared in the sky above the academy. From its center, a powerful beam of light shot straight down, creating an immense tremor. 11:30 a.m. temporary base in front of the Student Assembly Center, with the main character's Taylor's group actively operating. It's likely many students have joined. At this moment, a dark purple hue enveloped the entire academy. 2 hours have passed since the surprise event occurred. That's what I saw in the Magical Souls book. From inside a building, there was the sound of a lively discussion among a group of people. "It's the highest level dark spirit. That's the Glasgow summoning circulator." The center of the giant circulator emitted a purple aura filled with oppressive power. Fonia Cloel, who was leading the discussion, crossed her arms, her voice grave. "This is bad news, because there's only one person with such high spiritual sensitivity capable of summoning such a high-level dark spirit. That person, likely our enemy, is the top student of the second year, the possessed one, Janica Filover." One could imagine Janica emitting a terrifying dark aura, her magic seemingly having taken over her soul. Everyone fell silent in tension upon hearing this news, until Fonia continued, "Unfortunately, this isn't the time for this, but according to Isla, we shouldn't prolong it." Taylor McLaurin suddenly spoke up, drawing Fonia's attention. "If Glasgow is summoned, the casualties will be greater. We have to go inside the Student Union building." He extended his hand, speaking firmly. Claire, captain of the Royal Guard, added his worried voice. "Those outside the barrier will soon realize what's happening. If the Royal Guard and the professors deal with this situation, it will be quick." The meddler, Elvira Eniston from the first-year advanced class, hands on her hips, interjected. "If that's a barrier from a high-level dark spirit formed within the academy, it will be very strong. It'll be difficult for outsiders to intervene. This must be resolved internally, and Principal Obel is also away. She added to Phonia Taylor and the others around, but if everyone here works together, even a high-level spirit can be defeated, right? Taylor and Isla seemed to agree. Claremius Nordendale from the first-year combat class sat huddled, fear evident on his face, and said, I object. Go through those mid-level spirits, subdue all the spirit beasts, then enter the building and defeat Janika. The once gentle spirit beasts were now tainted with dark energy. He continued, but that's not all. A purple surge of power flashed by. There are also high-level spirits inside the tower, it seems like 2 of them. His voice became even more fearful. The high-level fire spirit Takan and the high-level dark spirit Velosfer have taken control in there. The high-level dark spirit manifested as a humanoid creature with a goat's beard and bat-like wings. The once blazing red fire Takan was now enveloped in an evil color, its eyes burning with hostility. Claremius Nordendale clutched his head, screaming in terror and panic. Rushing in there is no different from suicide. I can't go. Loteo Ketchen also timidly spoke up. But is it true that person did it all alone? Even if she's the top student of the 2nd year, isn't that magical power too strong? Summoning and maintaining this dark spirit is not simple at all. Ayla Chis placed her hand on her chin and continued, perhaps it's mainly the power of the dark spirit Velosfer. Senior Janika is just a vessel for it to control. Dark spirits, the natural enemies of spiritualists, their power is uncontrollable by anyone. More accurately, they are demons trying to shatter the peace of this continent. The high-level dark spirit Velosfer appeared in their minds, a demon controlling Janika Filover like a puppet. Strings tightly bound her soul, making her act according to his will. This is why all psychics keep their minds pure and away from darkness, not wanting to be corrupted by them. Isla continued. However, Senior Janika is better than anyone else in dark elemental science. Along with Aila's words were the crimson eyes of that demon, looking truly dangerous. She continued her sentence. No one knows how Velosfer managed to exploit and control Senior Janika's soul. A boy among those present suddenly interrupted. That's not important anymore. Zeke continued. What's important is to decide our course of action now. Only one person can decide that. He looked with sharp eyes and suggested, Princess Phonia, please tell us. Phonia looked back, hesitating silently. All eyes were on her, the most suitable person for the leadership role, a situation where everyone was waiting for her decision. Suddenly, the words of that indifferent young man flashed through her mind. Phonia pursed her lips, recalling the moment she heard Ed Taylor's words. No matter what burden I carry, it can't compare to the burden the princess has to bear, right now, can it? You'll have to decide many things that are not simple at all. His words were truly too fitting for the current situation Phonia Cloel was facing. She secretly wished, if only I could live as comfortably as him. Finally, like a true leader, Phonia Cloel opened her mouth and gave orders. We will advance in 1 hour. However, that includes me and my escort Claire. The top students of each class, and Class A students, only those with proven skills will enter. So everyone, prepare yourselves. Everyone was silently listening to her words, each person showing a different emotion on their face. The royal guard was a bit tense while Zeke was calm. Elvira Eniston was excited, revealing her sharp teeth. Loteo just listened without revealing much personal emotion. Taylor and Isla were the most determined. Phonia solemnly declared with certainty, I will take responsibility for leading this battle. Suddenly, someone approached, knelt respectfully before the princess and said, Princess, what about the remaining people? Andre Hahn and some mages. Everyone is sitting in protest, unwilling to participate. It's hard to expect anything from them right now, he said urgently. The sorrowful princess replied, In fact, we are the only ones who can act in this battle. The male student added, Besides, there aren't many students who share their dissenting opinions. Suddenly, a girl appeared out of nowhere, running breathlessly to Phonia and said, Yes, there's still someone who can help us. When I was in the library, in the student library, there was an apprentice librarian and a second-year student left. Phonia was surprised and asked, Really, what are their names? Elka Iceland, the girl replied. Zeke seemed agitated by this information. It seemed Elka Iceland was very important to him. He immediately grabbed the shoulders of the girl who had just delivered the news repeatedly, asking as if to verify the truth. The girl was stunned by Zeke's reaction and replied, "Yes, yes, we're studying grimoire management together in the apprentice librarian class." His demeanor clearly showed urgency and worry for Elka. He immediately turned about to leave after hearing the girl's confirmation. "Damn it, we have to find her right now. Elka has absolutely no self-defense capabilities." Even Princess Phonia was surprised by Zeke's reaction. Both Princess Phonia Cloel and Royal Princess Loteo Kachin hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. The two took turns advising him. Loteo said, "Calm down, Zeke. The library is still quite far from here, no need to rush that. Right now, the first thing to do is to subdue Senior Janica, who is the cause of this problem." Phonia's turn. "That's right, Zeke. Besides, there's another second-year student in the student library. Why don't we trust that person now?" He was still worried. "Huh, who is it?" Phonia looked at the purple-haired girl and asked again, "Hey, is it true there's still another student in the library?" The girl immediately replied, "Yes, there is." Before the princess could stop him, Zeke rushed over, grabbed the girl's collar, shook her back and forth, and yelled, "Don't hide it. Tell me." Though frightened by his fiery temper, she still answered, Ed Taylor." His hands were still gripping the other person's clothes, but his eyes blazed with killing intent upon hearing his name. Tears streamed down the girl's cheeks as she explained, "I'm sorry. That person was sitting there until late at night. I was so annoyed that I handed the task over to Elka and left. You all know what kind of person he is. Elka is the type who doesn't care about such rumors." She hesitated, the atmosphere around them shifting slightly. Everyone thought of his terrible image, which had already spread to every corner of this academy. Two background characters behind them added, "Ed Taylor, that immoral guy alone with the librarian in the library." Damn. They seemed to realize they had just provoked the monster in front of them, but it was too late. "Wait," Phonia spoke up. Only Phonia Cloel and Loteo Ketchen, the only two present here, had noticed Ed Taylor's positive change, but they couldn't stop the anger in Zeke. Phonia stepped forward, arms outstretched to block him. "Wait, everyone." Realizing this situation was truly hard to explain, she hesitated. "Even so, should we trust that person just once?" The powerful beam of light from the center of the magic formation in the sky continued to shine down. Claire Taylor and Isla were petrified by her words, seemingly unable to believe their ears. She looked towards Loteo as if it were futile. Loteo was just as troubled as she was. Zeke's face was dark. In an instant he released the purple-haired girl and flew into the air. No one could stop him anymore. The dark spirits roared fiercely upon seeing him. But that didn't deter someone in such a peak of rage as him. "If he dares to touch even a single strand of Elka's hair, I'll make him die without a complete corpse," he warned ominously. He exploded, unleashing his anger on the monsters, decapitating one, splitting another in half. His anger flared along with his worry for Elka Iceland. He growled loudly, "Ed Taylor." Just with the phrase, "the dragon born on the stream," Zeke's miraculous existence could not be explained. Zeke hid in the bushes, waiting for the human. While hiding, he assessed the prey in front, looking at its body size. It was an adult male. Looking at the state of the surrounding grass and trees it had just passed by, his eyes changed color, staring intently at the target ahead. In front of his hiding figure was a wild animal that had fallen into his sights. Quickly, Zeke lunged out, followed by a sharp-pointed dagger, ready to attack the animal. He thought to himself, in the northern plains of the Empire, a savage land that even the might of the royal family could not reach, a world where at the end of the day, the beast seemed to sense danger and turned its head, but it was too late. He and his dagger were right above the beast's head. In this dangerous land, you have to consider yourself lucky if your head is still attached to your neck. Instantly, a torrent of blood spurted from the beast. Zeke was a descendant of a nomadic tribe living there, but had become lost during his upbringing. He didn't know when or why he had become lost in the human world. He didn't know if he could ever return to the life he had there. He learned to slit a deer's throat before he learned to read. Instead of buying things at a store, the first thing he learned was how to loot goods from corpses by the roadside. Unbelievable, right? While these thoughts were running through his mind, he had already brought back his spoils. The animal's head was severed from its body. He dragged the head to a market with quite a few people. Passers-by couldn't help but be horrified by the bloodied carcass of an animal being dragged on the ground by him. A series of whispers spread around. Is this guy from the northern plains a descendant of those savages? There are rumors they even eat human flesh. Suddenly, a little girl stood in front of him and curiously asked, "What's your name?" Because it was so sudden he was too surprised to speak. The little girl stood there with expectant eyes. He slowly answered, "Zeke." The little girl spoke. "Zeke, you're dressed like a wolf walking on two legs." She smiled brightly, her tone and expression unlike others who were afraid of him. Zeke seemed to realize something. From that moment I realized. The girl's eyes widened in surprise, staring fixedly. He still stood there thinking about himself, a life of wandering on the vast, endless northern plains. The boy took the moon as his roof to sleep under 8 animal carcasses lying by the road. He might very well be a wolf cub abandoned by its pack. He dropped his staff. The girl asked worriedly, "Are you okay, Zeke?" At her words, he burst into tears. He thought of himself again. I've truly lived a very lonely life. On the first day he met his companion Zeke, finally realized the feeling of loneliness. Elka and her father welcomed me like family. As I pursued the bustling pace of human civilization, my savage life became a distant past. A wolf cub had become a true human, but if it was to protect her, I was willing to become a beast once more. Scene change. Now at the academy, he was desperately searching for Elka. He hurriedly sought out one person, Ed Taylor, that guy. Ed Taylor was a person of filthy character, cheated on exams, insulted the princess, messed with underclassmen girls. He ran down the hallway like a gust of wind. Finally, he found Ed Taylor. Ed Taylor looked up in surprise at the person rushing towards him. "What is it you are?" Before he could ask, Zeke lunged, grabbed Ed Taylor's collar, and interrogated him, losing his composure. "Elka. Where is Elka? What tricks did you pull? Where is Elka? Spit it out." Ed Taylor replied, "She's in library room number 3. As soon as he finished speaking, Zeke dashed off to find Elka, calling her name as he went. Reaching library room number 3, Zeke hurriedly opened the door. "Are you okay, Elka?" But strangely, Elka was completely fine, sleeping soundly on the bed. Zeke approached and said, "Thank goodness." He clutched his head, panting. "Really very lucky." Zeke frowned, looking around, wondering. But on second thought, these bookshelves are so large even a grown man would struggle to lift them. They were arranged around Elka as if protecting her, and a curtain was positioned to block the view of the rampaging spirits. Zeke placed his hand on the letters on the chalkboard, reading the words written there. "When you wake up, don't panic and stay here. Everything will be over before dawn, so stay calm. Block the entrance and don't provoke the spirits. Always prioritize your own safety and don't move hastily." Zeke pondered after reading the words on the board. Someone tried to protect Elka. Zeke suddenly found a red jacket, seemingly an academy uniform, but strangely, it had bloodstains on it. Blood. This isn't Elka's blood. This is... He looked towards the bloodstains still on the floor. The bloodstains pointed towards the large door he had just entered. From the bloodstains, Zeke could see who had protected Elka. Though injured, he didn't take care of himself. The blood of Elka's protector, Ed Taylor. But ultimately, why? 3 hours ago, as books continuously fell and bookshelves toppled. Despite being injured, Ed Taylor still tried to protect Elka, who was unconscious and slung over his shoulder. One hand carried Elka, while the other supported the falling bookshelf. His head was injured at this point, but he still tried to hold on. Ed Taylor supported the bookshelf and spoke. "Even so, I've trained my muscles a bit daily, but it's truly a pity the plot is progressing faster than expected, isn't it? Looking at the summoning circulator, the battle to conquer Glast Gan has begun. Someone will know how to handle it. I don't need to pay too much attention to a place like that. A place where many prominent figures gather. Since the future cannot be changed and time is money, I can't just sit still." Ed Taylor moved to the library room, took off his uniform jacket and placed it on the table. He carried the heavy bookshelves alone, thinking as he did. A little later, the fleeing low-level spirits will swarm out. Therefore, I must block the entrance so the spirits can't get in. Take this opportunity. I'll take the time to rearrange this place to be safer. Now, while eating the beef jerky I'll spend the whole night researching materials. Ed Taylor suddenly remembered something. But wait, the reason Janika's skills became special. This lies in her proficiency and skills in understanding spirits and spirit sensing. These two stats increase through contact with spirits, because meeting and communicating with spirits is already a rare talent in itself. For me, someone who can't even see spirits raising stats like hers is almost impossible. Ed Taylor opened the door and stepped out. A horde of monsters rushed to attack. As he rushed forward, he still thought, but are those spirits appearing because Janika summoned them? This sweet event, I'll enjoy it. He used his magic to charge and attack the monsters. His speed was insane. Finally, he won and defeated all those monsters. Leaning against the wall, he saw the system board display his achievements. Fire Elemental Magic. Ignite to level 12. Spirit. Sensing to level 7. And Spirit Magic. Spirit Comprehension to level 7. He was surprised. I've reached level 12 and level 7. But I heard if combined and over level 15 one can create a spirit contract. He leaned his head against the wall, sighed and thought, but it seems I've reached the limit of my body's endurance. If I push further, it will be very dangerous. Just then, Zeke carrying Elka approached. Zeke asked, "What are you doing sitting there?" Ed Taylor looked at Zeke's face curiously, wondering, why ask like that after all? Can he ignore the fact that I'm resting covered in wounds and I don't need to beat around the bush? Ed Taylor answered perfunctorily, "I'm meditating." Hearing that Zeke could only sigh and say to himself, "Haha, meditating." Even a 3-year-old wouldn't believe that answer. Zeke replied, "Is that so? Now I feel like I understand you a little. You've been that kind of person from the beginning." Ed Taylor's eyes widened at Zeke's action. Zeke bowed his head and said, "Truly I owe you a lot, Senior Ed." Zeke continued, "When I have the chance, I will definitely repay this debt." Ed Taylor looked at the two thinking as if he had realized something. Elka is definitely Zeke's lover. Elka's first appearance was also in the guidebook I completely forgot. It seems Elka is quite important to Zeke. If so, then Zeke looked up at Ed Taylor with an unfriendly expression. Ed Taylor continued, "Looking at the situation, it seems you left the student union and came here." Ed Taylor turned back to look and remind Zeke, "Once you're sure Elka is safe, continue with your work. Quickly return to the student union. You're not allowed to be here." Ed Taylor continued, "Go help Taylor. If you do what he says, everything will be resolved somehow." Zeke asked back, "Taylor? You mean Taylor McLaurin?" Ed Taylor replied, "Yes, that guy always narrowly avoids failure." Zeke said doubtfully, "I don't know why Taylor is so highly rated. I've never even spoken to that guy." Ed Taylor replied, "But the problem is the shell of the high-level demon spirit Taycan can only be damaged by his elemental Clairave. Taylor's skill learned in Act 1 Scene 9, Elemental Clairave. This battle's strategy depends on that skill. If we can get Taylor to use it, the chances of winning are very high." Zeke replied, "Thanks for the guidance." Ed Taylor replied, "There's no time, so go quickly. I'll rest here for a bit." Watching Zeke and Elka's departing figures, Ed Taylor sighed and thought deeply. "I've given so much advice. I hope it succeeds. Let's just go with that." Ed Taylor thought back to Zeke's earlier words about not knowing Taylor and felt a bit curious. But why hasn't Zeke befriended Taylor yet? Ed Taylor recalled the scene from Act 1 earlier. Scene 9, End of First Semester Evaluation. In a duel, Taylor was defeated but learned how to clairave elements and sever Zeke's magic. After seeing the opponent's determination, Zeke recognized Taylor and eventually they became friends. However, the final chapter of Act 1 is a month earlier than in the original work, so they're not friends yet. Taylor hasn't learned how to clairave elements. No one in the current combat force? In Damage to Khan, I didn't realize the entire plot development has collapsed. At the student plaza where the attack force was stationed, Taylor bowed his head and said, "Sorry for being late. I will definitely pay for my mistake." Phonia replied, "All right. Even with Zeke, it seems we'll still be defeated. The attack team failed in the first round." Claire sat tiredly on a chair, his body covered in wounds, and said weakly, "If everyone plans to attack again, it's best to gather more volunteers. I'll join as soon as the pain in my leg disappears." Phonia spoke to Claire again. "All right, Claire. You should rest for now. You can't walk normally at the moment." Claire replied, "Princess Phonia, if you truly care about me, please retract your order." Phonia gritted her teeth and retorted, "Claire, I also have what's called a human heart. Fortunately, the retreat was successful, but Claire lost all his strength. Clairvius, president of the first-year combat club, was also injured. What on earth happened? Phonia's face darkened as she said, "First use all remaining strength to destroy Takan." Claire interrupted and replied, "I don't have time to take down Takan, but—" Everyone fell silent. The atmosphere seemed to grow heavier at Claire's words. He tensed and continued, "Looking at the state of the summoning ritual, it will be completed very soon." These words made Phonia frown in anger. That's the situation I wanted to avoid most, but I couldn't." Suddenly, Ed Taylor appeared, slowly approaching the group. He said, "Let's divide the combat team into two groups." His cold gaze and resolute expression seemed to give his words power. "I will lead one group and do it my way. From now on, I will intervene in this battle." Ed Taylor calmly analyzed for everyone to understand. "We must overcome Takan's fire spirit summoned by Janika and deal with Janika, who is controlled by the dark spirit Velasper." The ferocious image of that monster flashed for a moment. But surely everyone has faced Takan before, so they know. But because of that shell, we can't use our power to fight it. If so, there's no need to confront Takan directly. Ed Taylor briefly explained the combat strategy. When one team attracts Takan's attention, the other team enters the combat training area to subdue the controlled Janika. If we ignore Takan, we only need to deal with Janika. Loteo Ketchen heard this and retorted, "Impossible. It's completely different from what we know about Takan from combat training. The reason we were able to retreat was due to luck." She analyzed her point. If the decoy team fails and Takan chases the suppression team, or if the decoy team is completely wiped out, then in the end, we have to deal with both problems at once. The risk is too great. Ed Taylor turned to answer Loteo Ketchen. "Considering the level of risk can only be done when there are other alternatives. Loteo, in the end, the most important goal is to subdue Janika. Then Takan will also be neutralized." Zeke came from behind and questioned Ed Taylor. "The question is who will be on the decoy team." Elvira Eniston continued, "Joining that group is no different from wanting to commit suicide, right?" Suddenly a hand shot up and a resolute voice rang out from the crowd. "Me!" It was Taylor McLaurin. He raised his hand. "I volunteer for the decoy team." But Ed Taylor spoke up, refusing, "No, don't do that. Go inside. No matter what, you're part of the combat group." Ed Taylor pushed Taylor McLaurin away. As Taylor McLaurin walked, he turned his head back and trying to persuade, "I have agile legs. I don't know how long I can run, but if I have to sacrifice myself, doing so is the right thing." Ed Taylor replied, "You're misunderstanding something." He continued, "We're not choosing a sacrificial lamb. It's not necessary to split into two." He said casually, "Clairavis and Loteo will do it. 3 people, including me, will lure Takan." Clairavis and Loteo were surprised and vehemently objected. "Why me? I don't want to die." Ed Taylor immediately refused. "I will also politely decline this." Ed Taylor continued, "Trust me, there's a way. We can tie Takan down." The more he spoke, the more Clairavis and Loteo resolutely objected. Clairavis spoke first, dealing with Ed Taylor and Takan. "I'm about to die." Loteo continued, "No, how could that be?" Ed Taylor impatiently thought to himself, "We don't have much time." Phonia called out from a distance, "There's nothing wrong with what you said." She clutched her head and continued, "I still don't know the purpose, but—" Phonia continued, "I command everyone in the name of Phonia Elia Cloel, 3rd princess of the Cloel Empire. Divide the combat team into 2 groups with different tasks." She stood up, commanded, and ordered, "Me, Taylor, Zeke, Elvira, and Isla the Janika suppression team. Clairavis, Loteo, Ed Taylor." Before she could finish, their faces showed helplessness and resignation. "Be Takan's bait." She quickly continued, "Last but not least, I'll be brief because time is running out. Whatever happens, don't die." Her instruction, never fail. As soon as she finished, the 2 teams quickly split in 2 directions and set off to carry out their tasks according to the plan. Ed Taylor's team had now moved to the hallway. Loteo turned to ask Ed Taylor how to buy time against that fire lizard. "According to me, just follow the plan." Then all 3 charged towards the dragon. "We will win no matter what." Ed Taylor turned to reassure Clairavis. "Don't worry, Clairavis." Clairavis was timid and lacked confidence in his abilities, a first-year combat department student. Ed Taylor continued, "We can do it." Claravis looked at Ed Taylor with some confusion. Why is he so confident? Claravis felt a mix of emotions. Is there really a winning method? Because of the loud noise, it seemed the dragon named Takan had awakened. It stood up and looked towards him. In the combat training room behind that door, Janika Pullover. All we have to do is lure Takan. Claravis looked towards Princess Phonia. The princess's resolute appearance made him admire her and follow her orders to this point. Claravis smiled and thought to himself, but because I'm not alone. As if re-energized, he sped towards Takan. Maybe I can muster all my courage. As soon as he arrived, Takan reacted about to spew magic from its large mouth. Claravis still stood there in front of the dragon. He frantically turned back to look at him and reminded, "Oh, it's coming. The battle begins. How do we lure it now?" But looking back, Ed Taylor and Loteo had disappeared without a trace, who knows when. Claravis stood motionless, sweat pouring down, not knowing what to do. Takan was behind, slowly approaching him, then glared, watching what he would do next. Instantly, Claravis had to flee from the dragon, screaming continuously as he ran, even though the distance between him and the monster wasn't far. "You lied. You tricked me. Why are you treating me like this?" Claravis continued to complain. Those shouts also echoed to Loteo's location. "Hey, you lunatics, where are you? Come out. So hateful, I hate this whole world." Loteo, not far away, closed her eyes. She recalled the words Ed Taylor had just instructed her. While Claravis was excitedly running towards Takan, "Let's go out first. Once we've pushed Claravis into the pipe corridor to lure that monster." Loteo laughed, then sighed, replying to Ed Taylor, "You mean you'll sacrifice Claravis in the end? It might not be bad to do that to save many people, but it won't escape moral criticism." Ed Taylor replied, "No. What sacrifice?" Looking at Claravis, he exclaimed, "Just looking at him, he already looks like a leader." To avoid Takan's attack, Claravis quickly dodged it. His stamina and agility are terrifying. Her expression barely changed always, maintaining a cold demeanor. Besides, in this operation, the most important role will be yours, Loteo. Ed Taylor led Loteo to the wall outside the pipe corridor outside the combat training room. Loteo cast a spell according to Ed Taylor's instructions. She cast a spell on the wall in front of her. Ed Taylor continued to explain to Loteo, "You are the one responsible for ensuring a safe entrance for Janika's suppression team. In fact, you will play an important role in creating a safe passage for Takan's attack team." Loteo cast her spell and laughed. "Well, you really can't judge others based on rumors." Ed Taylor had turned his head back by then, speaking confidently to Loteo. "Everyone is hesitating, not knowing whether to do it or not, but you're good at this stuff." Loteo blew away the wall. Debris also shot out, blowing it away gently. The large explosion shook the entire building. Debris from the wall also shot out. The wall was shattered into many pieces, many sections no longer intact. A lot of dust and smoke billowed out. Loteo successfully created a passage for Phonia's attack team. Witnessing this, Phonia's team couldn't help but be stunned by the scene before them. Everyone stood still like statues, unable to hide their surprise. "What's that?" Loteo turned back, smiled, and said, "Time to suppress." Loteo thought back to the scene of the large explosion earlier. On second thought, during joint combat training, she had witnessed it. "I blew up the pipe corridor ceiling with forbidden mid-level magic." She gave an excited smile. "So you assigned me this role. What an interesting guy, Ed Taylor." She looked at Phonia's team and left, still thinking to herself. "Anyway, the entrance is secured." Loteo looked behind. "The rest?" She looked towards Claravis, who was currently being chased by Takan. Despite being chased, Claravis still had the strength to curse, "Loteo Ed. Do you really think I'm dead? I won't let you off." Loteo hurriedly used magic to help Claravis while Ed Taylor stood there speaking frantically. Even if the operation is successful and the combat force enters safely without encountering Takan Claravis, and I have to deal with Takan. At this moment he had jumped out. Seeing Claravis's miserable state, having to flee and lure Takan, she thought to herself, "Fighting Takan in the student union where the hallway has no escape. Die. You can run." Meanwhile, Claravis over there was screaming in panic, "No, I'm sorry. Save me. I'm sorry for saying I'd kill you. Save me, just once." Recalling what Ed Taylor had said earlier, "Run now, we're free to think of a way to deal with it." thinking of its ferocious appearance. Because the monster has a defensive shell, no attack is effective. Didn't you see during practice I lost to it once? Moreover, no one in the combat team escaped injury when confronting that monster head-on. Ed Taylor picked up a small bag and said, "This will do the trick. Gather your magical power and get ready." Loteo asked, a bit bewildered, "What is that?" Ed Taylor hurriedly ran upstairs carrying the cloth bag. As he ran, he thought about what Loteo had just said. Loteo is right. Without elemental clairave, no member of the combat team can break Takan's shell. Over here, Loteo also helped Phonia's team, using her ice magic to assist. The dragon had just broken through the ice wall Loteo created when Ed Taylor kicked open the door and entered the room. Arriving, he panted from exhaustion. What's needed is overwhelming firepower. In front of him was Lucy Marrow, sleeping soundly. The additional completion condition? Almost no one can complete it. I've tried countless times. Ed Taylor carried Lucy Marrow on his back. She mumbled in her sleep, "Yeah, what, huh? I'm trembling. I'm asleep." Ed Taylor's face darkened with anger. He thought angrily, how can she be napping at a time like this? Besides, it's not day, it's night. Lucy, who had nowhere to sleep because her shelter was destroyed, had gone to the rooftop where she initially napped. Janika wasn't in a good mood. Belmaya became sensitive because of it, so Lucy ran away using all her magic power to escape and fell asleep from exhaustion. That might be a change in the script to remove this unbalanced person from a critical situation that required her help from the start. Lucy Miro, surprised, noticed the aroma in the bag. "It smells like beef jerky." Ed Taylor took out delicious-smelling pieces of beef jerky from the bag. But suddenly, while Lucy wasn't paying attention, he stuffed the beef jerky into her mouth. "Eat. Lot. Eat." This is not the time to be picky. Ed Taylor carried her and ran to the balcony railing upstairs. He took a run-up, one arm outstretched, the other grabbing Lucy, whose mouth was stuffed with beef jerky, unable to resist. The opponent is a fire lizard. There will be a distance needed to throw her to the monster. He gritted his teeth, putting all his strength into the gamble. But there's nothing to worry about. I've done this many times. He quickly threw Lucy at high speed, leaving Lucy bewildered, unable to comprehend what was happening. At the same time, he shouted a reminder, "Everyone get down." Just then, Takan was preparing to breathe fire towards Phonia's team. Lucy flew over crying and saying, "Oh my God, so scary, so scary." Takan's fire breath was about to attack everyone. Then Lucy flew in just in time and shielded everyone. High-level lightning art heavenly punishment. The spark was so bright it was blinding. The spark hit Loteo and Claravis, but luckily, thanks to the protective orb from Loteo's magic, both were protected. Due to the large explosion, Ed Taylor was inevitably affected. He was on the railing trying to hold onto the iron bar tightly to avoid being blown away. In a way, this was the most crucial moment. Takan is a high-level fire spirit that couldn't be defeated even if everyone charged at it because its protective shell was too sturdy. But now, after Lucy hit it with high-level magic, even its hard shell was broken. Now it will take damage from our attacks. Ed Taylor leaped down from the railing at dizzying speed. Of course, when I kill it, I'll get a huge amount of experience. It's come to this, so I also need to care about what I need. The final blow to finish off that monster must be mine. He rushed towards Takan, his body radiating an intense desire to defeat Takan. Next is a scene of a mother and daughter embracing affectionately. The mother gently says, "I'm so proud of you, my beloved daughter Janika." But then came a cold affection. One person after another expressed goodwill, but not very sincerely. "I'm very happy to be friends with you. Janika, you are the pride of the second-year students. You are the only one who demonstrated superior skills in this joint combat training course. If it's student Janika, I can trust her. Without you, the second-year students are the most ignorant generation." Cut to an image of a girl's body emitting a dark aura, destroying fragment by fragment the memories of falsehood. Feet soaked in fresh blood stepped on the fragments. Then an unknown voice rang out, "So glad to have you here, Janika." A large explosion suddenly erupted. Seeing this, the students immediately went on high alert. Janika saw them gathered in one place and was secretly pleased. "Everyone is here." Chains were wrapped around her from neck to hands. Purple veins appeared on her face and she tried to force a smile. "That's right, I have to greet them with a smile as usual." She said, "Welcome." Her entire body was covered in a layer of dark aura. Behind her was a horned wolf-faced monster with blazing red eyes. Now she was levitating in the air with the monster in an incredibly beautiful pose, while the other students could only stare. Then blonde-haired Ed clothes, stained with fresh blood, quickly flashed by. He thought, Neville Hall. Janika's side has started fighting. This battle will end at dawn. He stopped and silently gave thanks. Luckily, I'm almost done too. Unfortunately, a student was cornered by a monster, its mouth spewing flames right at him. The student could only try his best to run screaming. Ah, ah, Ed appearing behind Loteo, who knows when asked. Lucy, how is she? Loteo said unsympathetically, roll somewhere else. He didn't pay much attention to Loteo's attitude and continued. If she can handle it, that's good. Loteo replied. I don't think she has enough power to use magic anymore. He seemed helpless and replied, all right, then we'll finish it ourselves. She agreed. I was thinking the same. Loteo wasn't wrong. Lucy relaxed in the ball very calmly and fell asleep, ignoring the tense battle outside her peers being relentlessly chased by monsters. She spoke again, but it still resists even though I attacked it with 2 more ice lances. How can it endure so well? Ed rolled up his sleeves preparing to fight and said, we have to cut off its head. Your ice magic isn't very sharp, so leave it to me. Loteo heard this and questioned. You're also from the same magic system as me, senior. If so, shouldn't that be left to a swordsman, like Claravis? Speaking of Claravis being a swordsman, yet trembling before the enemy, limbs flailing, Ed could tell he wasn't good for anything. Do you think he can do it? Loteo also acknowledged. It's true, he really can't. He's sitting over there scared to death. Ed said with determination, I will take responsibility for ending this, so please immobilize it for a moment for me. I will risk my life for everyone, so you must do it well. Which left Loteo stunned upon hearing. She replied gravely, Senior Ed talks about things like responsibility then risking his life. Sounds too simple, doesn't it? Facing the scene of a ferocious dragon spewing people running in panic, yet the two were still in the mood to chat. Actually, thinking back, it sounds like betting one's own life. She ignored the situation and continued to want to block him, but he was very confident in himself. It's not a gamble, because the value of a life isn't low. He turned his head back, glanced coolly at Loteo, and said seriously, it's an investment. As if finding a like-minded comrade, Loteo smiled. Investment, huh? That's my specialty. As she spoke, she began to cast magic. Maybe I'm a royal princess who holds everything in her hands. Just because of royal blood, I let myself be affected by the flow of life, but because Senior made me bet my life for you. Sharp blocks of ice began to appear around her, ready to be unleashed along with her firm words. So I will also risk my life and bet on you. Arrangements complete, Ed charged forward. I'm going. As he charged in, Claravis was sent flying by the monster screaming, I'm not sure I'm still alive. The monster opened its mouth ready to fight. He monologued, I'm at my limit and so is this thing. Seeing the monster gathering a terrifying surge of power, he understood. Even so, I can understand why Claravis is so scared. On both sides, one person and one beast were trying hard to close in on each other. Then the monster let out a terrifying roar. At close range, its scream made his head spin. It was very difficult to maintain his state and gather power. Still, not enough, he had to get closer. Suddenly, a scream rang out, distracting him a bit. A giant arm from the magic Sir Claire flew towards Claravis, making him who was sitting there tremble uncontrollably. What is that? Ed glanced and immediately recognized it. That is Glass Gan's right arm, so that means Taylor and the others over there have fought it to the final stage, right? Meaning the story will unfold as planned, but the timing isn't quite right. Anyone would be distracted seeing this. The monster opened its mouth wide and shot power towards him. However, he thought, the ice blocks Loteo formed earlier had an effect. They helped him block the recent attack. Luckily, she cast her magic in time. She shouted, right now, he continued his train of thought. Even in a catastrophe, Loteo doesn't make any mistakes. Attacked by a sudden cold air blast, the beast struggled to endure. Then suddenly, its eyes widened, and he seized the moment it let down its guard, quickly closing in on the opponent, gathering power. He told himself, and me too. Then he strained to channel a spherical energy mass in his hand, a spell he had probably used thousands of times. Then he strained to channel a spherical energy mass in his hand, a spell he had probably used thousands of times. That is Windleaf. An astonishing blue light power stream was unleashed, causing it to take a full critical hit, its head severed from its neck. It truly died with its mouth agape. The huge head fell heavily to the ground with a few thuds. Then the system displayed a notification. You have defeated the high-level fire spirit Takan. Then came a series of bonus rewards. Spirit magic increased spirit connection range. Spirit magic increased spirit comprehension. Unlocked a round of spirit contracts. Spirit contract now available. He paid no attention to what the system just announced. What interested him was in the distance. That Taylor guy. In the direction he was looking, a figure shot straight from under the tower towards a giant metal contraption resembling a hand glowing red against the sky. A second later, that figure disappeared instantly, and from within the metal heap, a dazzling light emerged. And somehow, that heavy metal block was easily subdued with many unexplained cracks appearing. What was bound to happen happened. A large explosion occurred. Heavy metal fragments fell. Taylor was also strongly affected by the explosion and fainted, causing him to freefall from the sky. Taylor fell into a coma, his hair turning white as he hit the ground. Ed exclaimed, "Truly a powerful main character." When the beast was subdued, the battle also came to an end. Cracks like broken glass began to appear above. After a while, it shattered into a large piece, revealing a dazzling light that attracted the students below to look up. It's over. After the battle, the sky brightened again. Everyone rested at the base of an ancient tree. I've seen many people say they'd risk their lives for something, but there are also many who don't keep their promises, all cowardly scoundrels. Hearing that he could only say, once, seeing him answer so perfunctorily, Loteo turned to tease him a bit. "What's wrong, senior? We just went through a terrifying event, almost all of us died, yet your expression is still so calm." She extended her hand as if to reintroduce herself. "Allow me to introduce myself again. I am Loteo Keichin." Ed also politely shook her hand. But suddenly, he realized Loteo was giving him something. It was 3 gold coins in her hand, making him bewildered. "Huh, this time you win." She stuck out her tongue playfully. "You just let your guard down right now. You owe me a favor." "What should I do now?" Loteo smiled cunningly. "We'll see, senior." Hearing her say that, he understood a bit of her intention. "You mean you want to keep in touch with me? I really don't want to get involved with her, but..." He shifted his attention and saw Taylor had awakened. He stood up uncomfortably. "So annoying. You probably know why I'm so upset." He watched silently and then quietly assessed. Taylor's appearance? That's the manifestation of him mastering the elemental sword. Looks exactly like in the game. Awesome. He still approached him and spoke, leaving him bewildered. "Even so." Then suddenly he solemnly bowed to him. "I owe you this time. Thank you." Claravis saw this and shouted, "Taylor, you don't need to show respect to this type of person. One day, he'll stab you in the back. You'll see, it's because of him I almost died." Before Taylor could speak, Zeke, Phonia, and Loteo all shot disdainful looks at him. "Shut up, Claravis. That's a bit too much talk. Claravis, you're too noisy." He was bullied by the group and huddled up crying in a corner. No matter how much he whined, Phonia ignored him. She said to him, "Ed Taylor, you contributed a lot to the recent battle. If I send a letter of recommendation to the student council..." Before she could finish, he interrupted, "No." Ed struggled to his feet from under the tree and said, "Anyway, Lucy was the one who contributed the most to defeating Takan. And Taylor was the one who took down Bilafer and Glass Gan, so please focus on those two." Suddenly, Elvira poked her head out and laughed wickedly. "That's right, don't try to change the subject. It's true, everyone knows Lucy and Taylor contributed a lot, but we're talking about something else. Are you embarrassed, or something?" Zeke heard this and had to speak up to correct her. "He's a senior, speak properly." Elvira, making her angry like a cat with its fur bristled. "Why are you taking his side?" Zeke repeated, "Speak properly." Looking at them like that, he didn't know why, but he felt happy inside and couldn't help but think, to not affect the original plot. I tried to keep my distance from the main characters, yet when I see them in person, I feel so warm. To see them fulfill their roles in this world and solve problems time and time again. Taylor became stronger throughout the exams. Ayla also became stronger because of Taylor. Phonia gradually matured, accepting her destiny as a ruler of the kingdom. Zeke found his own path through knowledge and understanding of civilizations. Claravis gained more self-confidence, and Elvira realized that joy and attention aren't everything in life. Loteo wonders if life is manipulated by gold coins. Each main character with their different roles and reading to the end is the trophy called victory. Knowing that truth, I returned. Finally, he appeared at the place where the battle had just occurred. He picked up a stone to test its weight, found it ordinary, and threw it away. Ed was amidst the ruins at a place you couldn't find while the game was in progress after the story ended. At the reserve platform, there was a wooden cabinet which was also where Lucy used to sleep during the joint combat training course. He approached and opened the cabinet door. No matter how many times I think about it, it still doesn't seem feasible. However, that person has no other choice but this place. He understood that for the main characters to shine, someone had to stay behind the scenes. The door opened and Janica, covered in wounds, appeared before him, but with a smile on her lips. Ha 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 ha. It seems she's happy because it's you. To explain this, allow me to rewind time to 2 days ago. One Clarar morning, an incident erupted in Ophilas Hall. The system screen appeared combat ability details. Apprentice fighter type specialized weapon bow, proficiency level 6, critical firepower level 3, fire rate level 2, retreating fire arrow level 1, marksmanship eyesight level 2, comprehensive observation level 1. Ed examined the footprints still imprinted on the ground. I sense prey nearby from these footprints. He held his bow and arrow hiding behind a tree. Ed Taylor truly had no combat ability at all. So I'm forced to use a bow every time I hunt. Opportunity arrived. In front of him was a large deer engrossed in grazing. He immediately drew his bow into an aiming stance. He was helpless. A whole semester has passed, and the break is only half over, yet my archery skills are still completely hopeless. More importantly, recently at the hunting grounds, he seemed to have discovered something. Day by day, for example, the high-class maid Bell, more and more people are visiting. Hello, Zeke, exercising, ran over. How should I put it? It feels like my living in the northern forest. The yellow-tipped arrow hidden behind the bush watched him shoot. Has reached the ears of many people. Anyway, among the familiar guests, a powerful magical energy source appeared in the sky. There were 3 rather prominent people. Guest A was a rare and hard-to-find magical genius. It was great-grandmother Lucy, who often visited on a whim. Lucy peered through the window. Ooh la la la, there's a door here. We need to add a back door too. Are you going to build a chimney as well? Without bothering to answer her, he kicked Lucy out the window. Lucy didn't seem to mind much and kept eagerly offering suggestions regardless of whether they were necessary or not. Can't you make a glass door? It won't break right, since we're not allowed to cast spells here anyway. Or maybe add another window on the roof. He inwardly assessed. Gesta. Oh dear. She's always bothering and asking about things. She always wants you to do things her way. As for guest B, actually having her visit was quite fun. Ta-da fun, right? She was Janica. Janica was very happy when visiting Ed, excitedly carrying a basket of eggs. I've brought the eggs. Belle said she wanted to give you these eggs. She was the most outstanding student in the last 200 years and throughout the history of spirit mages. Janica proactively helped with laundry. If you wash with hot water, add salt water, and then stomp on them like this, they'll be bleached. Awesome, right? My parents used this method with the dirty clothes on the farm. Even though she came here quite often, I didn't find it bothersome at all. Ed felt that almost every day she came to chat cheerfully and help him with trivial matters. My gratitude for her is boundless. He looked at her and unintentionally praised, Janica, you're really amazing. How do you know everything? Hearing his words made Janica turn away shyly, leaving him with his mouth agape, not understanding anything. What's wrong? It was just a compliment? Janica said, Oh, by the way. Looking at her, it seemed she was very easy to guess. Janica turned her face back with a scary smile. How many times a week does Lucy come here? Although sometimes I don't understand her either. Anyway, she is guest B, the main reason I have to explain this to you. One late night, with a clear moon and cool breeze before the person was seen, their voice was heard. "Oh my Ed, it seems you're very busy." Two pairs of feet stepped past arrows stuck in the ground. Guest C had appeared. The owner of the voice earlier was Loteo. "I'm waiting for you." Following behind her was a white-haired woman, the one known to the whole world as the Golden Woman. Loteo smiled and said, "I need your help." Loteo is the dark curtain of Act 2. He turned back to look with an unwelcoming expression. It's possible she's trying to gather useful people to seize Ophelis Hall. But this time I don't want to get involved. I'll simply refuse all her sweet enticements. Ed was about to leave but was stopped by Loteo's words. "Huh. You see, initially, I didn't plan to ask for your help," he thought to himself. "As long as I don't interfere, everything will follow the plot." But then she said, "If it's good and I don't faint." Hearing this, his eyes widened. Why has it gone off track? Ed turned back urgently, shouting at Loteo in astonishment, making her stunned. Why did he faint? Tell me quickly. That's right, according to the original plot, Tote fought with Taylor, but that day Tot stood in the middle of the grand hall with many people around slandering, how ridiculous. Taylor should have only hit him just enough. But then this guy blurted out. He insolently cursed, "You're even dumber than that insect Ed Taylor." And so his mouth got him into trouble and he immediately received a punch. He fell sprawling on the ground unconscious. Loteo recounted, "I don't know if it was because of Taylor or because of you." But Elvira said this was the first time she'd seen Zeke so angry. She continued, That's why I can't believe those sentimental people. What I'm asking you isn't difficult. Take Alice's key and go to Ophelis Hall. And when the weaker students get there, you just need to open the door." He asserted one thing. Surely, besides me, there are still many capable people. Loteo admitted, "True, but no matter how much money they receive, there's no guarantee they won't report me to the Academy's internal affairs." Loteo explained, "If they say that Loteo is behind all this, what will happen to me? I can't trust anyone." So that's why she came to me, because I'm not trusted at the Academy. She laughed wickedly and reminded him, "Ed, you were kicked out of Ophelis Hall. Don't you want to thrash those Academy students?" He answered honestly, "I really don't want to." This surprised Loteo a bit, saying that Ed still did it. "But will you agree to my conditions?" "I just need to do it, lightly. That's all." Hearing the request, Loteo smiled cunningly. 20 gold coins. Before this story went too far, Ed said, "Agreed, I'll put everything back in its original place." It was raining cats and dogs. The incident erupted at Ophelis Hall D1. The event of seizing Ophelis Hall began before the start of the struggle for the Sage's Secret Sutra. Ed sat under the eaves flipping through the pages of a book. Loteo has hatched a plot to push the Academy's financial capabilities to the brink of disaster. So it's like a connecting scene between two different events. According to the script, Loteo's plot is very successful and establishes Constellation, a group of students operating for the Academy's profit, creating a new world directly confronting the Student Council of Princess Phonia, Student Council ideals, and Constellation reality. The important thing here is who Taylor will choose, and that side will win in the end. I just need to play the role of an audience member well and then follow the side that's likely to win. He sat next to the fire reading a book. Meaning, I also need to survive. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his train of thought. "Gah, I need to go back to the dorm." As she spoke, she wrung water from her clothes, silently hoping, "It'll probably stop raining today." Jenica sat down on the wooden log next to him, warming herself, and confided, "Ed, you're really hard-working. If I felt like it, I'd come and then leave. To feel like I just came back from camping. But you have to stay here under this heavy rain," he replied blandly. "Everything will get better." It was pouring rain, the weather gloomy. The two continued their conversation. Jenica suddenly remembered, "Speaking of which, it's time for me to move out of Ophelis Hall." Ed replied, Probably, because the break is almost over." Jenica sighed. "I still have to throw away a billion things because this hall is more cramped than I thought." She clasped her hands to her chest and said excitedly, "And also, if you need anything, just tell me, Ed. I mean, you probably lack many things here, right?" Ed was a bit surprised. Jenica wanted to help him a bit. "I have extra pillows, cushions, a clock, and even a lantern." Ed thoughtfully watched her chatter. "Besides, I also have many necessary daily items." Then he smiled happily at Jenica's kindness. If I throw it all away, it's such a waste, don't you think? Although I can't carry all the furniture because all of it belongs to Ophelis Hall. Ed was amused. Sounds good. Janica stretched with satisfaction. Great. I'll leave as soon as the new semester starts, so I'll bring those things later. At this moment, Janica shifted her attention to Lucy on the roof. As for Lucy, does she often do that? He replied gently, sometimes. Ed looked at Lucy standing in the rain and understood her mood. Lucy's extraordinary powers didn't come for free. She had avoided life by feigning laziness. For so many years she had tried to escape the destiny that was set for her. Lucy stood alone on the rooftop gazing into the distance. Rains like this made her feel sad and reflect on the ups and downs of her life. Ed said of Lucy, whenever it rains she's like this. And he didn't care anymore, just warmed his hands. Don't pay too much attention. Normally, I don't care much either. Seeing him say that made Janica very happy. Understood. So you're normal with Lucy, right? Ed added, oh, and Janica? I just realized now she's still in Ophelis Hall. When the hall is occupied, the ancient defensive incantation will be activated on a large scale and trap the students in their own rooms. Janica will easily escape from there, but Ed was still uneasy. I want to ask you a favor. Janica asked back, what is it? Ed said seriously. Tomorrow around 9:00 p.m. His gaze shifted to Janica beside him as he suggested, can you come to the rose garden in front of Ophelis Hall? Janica was astonished. Huh. Then she covered her mouth with both hands, face flushing red, the rose garden. Ed paid no attention to the surprised and shy expression on Janica's face and calmly continued. Tomorrow I'll tell you the reason later. Ed knew this was very difficult to explain. Right now, I don't know how to say it. I should get her out of there in case something bad happens. A place not far from there and where we can avoid the rain. Janica stood up abruptly, stammering, it's okay. Then with a rosy mood, she ran back in the rain. I'm going now. Goodbye. He looked at Janica and sighed. When the new semester starts, the rain will also stop. That day, I will enjoy the clear, sunny sky after a long, dreary period. It was still pouring rain. After that, even these forests would exude the characteristic fragrance of autumn. Ed sat alone by the fire, pensive. The long holidays now also had to come to an end. The incident erupted at Ophelis Hall d09 p.m. At Ophelis Hall, phew, I'm really faster than my brain. A young man with bulging muscles was doing a handstand. He was Zeke Epstein of the magic system, blaming himself. It's best to limit actions based on emotion. I didn't expect Elka to be so angry. Seeing that he had trained enough, he stopped and lowered his feet to the ground. Zeke approached the window to check the situation outside, and he discovered something unexpected. A figure in a black cloak, completely covered, was stealthily running towards Ophelis Hall. That person was Ed Taylor, braving the rain to do bad deeds. Arriving Ed was assisted by a maid. He asked, what about the other maids? The maid coldly replied, besides the key personnel, most are in the meeting room. The head maid has requested them to gather to discuss an important matter. Ed speculated, so they plan to block the entrance to the hall after gathering the maids there. The leader has been bought, so everything is running very smoothly. The maid led him inside and said, I have also prepared the items they requested earlier. Receiving the bucket full of liquid, he didn't forget to say, thank you. Thank you. The maid said, I will just stand in a corner and observe. So everything was in place. The preparation was complete. He stood alone with the bucket beside him in the darkness. Outside now, the sky wasn't much better. The event of seizing Ophelis Hall. Below the building, there was a series of deafening shouts. It had begun. A line of people holding torches gathered in front of the hall. Whoa! They shouted, we can't take it anymore. This is the land of knowledge. At least you should ensure fair competition. The representative of the weaker side, Will, was very agitated. Answer us. The weaker side grew more numerous outside, but there was no way to get in. When they didn't know what to do, open sesame, and the door would open. Those outside saw the door open and couldn't believe their eyes. Whoa, but they didn't care and just rushed inside. The door to Ophelis Hall is open. Let's go. And Ed also rushed out. Confronting the leader, Will, he said, thank you. So you're the one Loteo mentioned. His face was clearly visible under the rain. He asked, Ed Taylor. Rewind a few minutes. Ed put the maid down and hesitated. Me. Then returning to the present, Ed showed an extremely disdainful face and said, "Always agree with all your opinions. Of course I used to live in luxury at Ophelis Hall, but only when I was kicked out did I deeply realize my former privileges." Will suddenly trembled. I eyes were a bit red, welling with tears. "I'm such a fool. I judged you by those ridiculous rumors. No one knows how good a person you are. You've worked hard." Ed didn't bother listening to his rambling anymore and actively pushed him upstairs. "You're the one who did it all. Hurry up. Let's go upstairs." His mouth said that, but his heart felt differently. "You're the one who caused this disaster. Stop rambling and get out of here quickly." Will didn't disappoint Ed's good intentions. "Agreed. I leave this place to you." Will was determined to strive, while Ed, in contrast, bowed his head in regret. "Will is the one who will take responsibility for this incident." "I'm sorry, Unclair." "Hang in there, Will." After struggling for a while, the maid had fled. It wasn't very necessary anyway. After all, her superiors were all in the meeting room. The head maid Alice, who was trying to check the ancient defensive incantation, was on Loteo's side. The hallway was filled with chaotic footprints. The system displayed "Activate Ancient Defensive Incantation," and those ancient incantations were supposed to protect the students. Those in the room began to notice something strange happening. "What the heck is happening out there? If we wait, everything will go back to normal, right?" Again, blocking all of them. Everything was according to the script. Ed was trying hard to strengthen the ancient defensive incantation in each room, and Black Curtain, who had prepared everything. Ed turned his head towards the sound. "Oh my. Your opening act is even more impressive than I thought." Feet soaked in rainwater approached. Indeed, it was Ed. Loteo, wearing a hood, was proud of her choice. "Entrusting this task to you was indeed a wise decision." Will stepped onto the stage.